I restart civilization in the 27th century. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101, Spending the Night in the Wild. Several months have passed since Chang Ning came to this era. The rice has matured. But in this doomsday wasteland with a general primitive social style, there are almost no girls who meet Chang Ning's aesthetic standards. In the past few months, he has not seen many girls who are more beautiful than Xiao, and there are only a few who are almost at the same level as her. So under the background of the general public and the constraints of the general environment of this era, it is pure nonsense to say that Chang Ning has no good impression of Xiao. But it is just a good impression, nothing else. However, in such a doomsday, a beautiful woman who has a good impression of him hugs his arm, which is actually quite exciting in itself. Especially in this era, the difference between men and women is not very heavy. Chang Ning can't help but have some charming thoughts in his heart. He turned his face to the side and felt the softness with his arm. His Xiao gently stroked the bruises on Chang Ning's arm with his hand, which made Chang Ning couldn't help but gasp. She quickly withdrew her hand and asked worriedly, "Does it hurt? Do you have any medicine in your backpack?" Although the humans reborn in the doomsday wasteland did not establish a medical system, they still knew how to use some simple herbal medicines. After she reminded him, Chang Ning remembered and took out a small medical kit from his backpack and took out a unravels aerosol. Then he sprayed some on the injured part of his arm. I don't know if it was a psychological effect or if the aerosol was really effective. Not long after spraying it, Chang Ning felt that the pain was much relieved. He smiled at Xiao. "That's much better." Xiao's worried look was slightly reduced, but he still looked at Chang Ning's injured arm with tears in his eyes and carefully hugged the arm in his arms, as if he could heal the wound with his eyes. Chang Ning also looked down at her profile. For a while, neither of them had anything to say. After a long silence, the atmosphere in the room gradually became ambiguous. Chang Ning finally couldn't help but clear his cough and pulled his arm out of Xiao's arms. "We will spend the night here tonight, so we don't need to set up a tent. Just use a sleeping bag. It's just that the internal latch of the store is not very safe, so we have to find a way to reinforce it later." Xiao also suddenly pulled himself out of his previous state and nodded. "I'll go get the backpack in." He turned around and was about to open the door. Chang Ning also took a step towards the door. "Let me do it." He thought that Xiao was a girl after all, and she didn't have any awakening ability in terms of physical fitness. It was really difficult for her to take a backpack weighing dozens of kilograms. Xiao didn't retreat, but took a few steps forward and bumped into Chang Ning, who was coming from the same direction. Ouch. Chang Ning's arm was injured, and his balance was not good, so he fell backwards. Ah. Xiao was shocked when he saw this, and hurriedly reached out to pull him, but was pulled down by Chang Ning. Plop. Chang Ning fell on his back, and Xiao lay on him. The two faces were so close that their breathing could be heard. Chang Ning felt his heart beating violently. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door. Chang Ning and Xiao were startled and hurriedly got up. Chang Ning took out the Skywalker #1 laser sword and threw the Desert Eagle to Xiao, motioning her to go to the innermost corner. Bang. There was another knock on the door. Chang Ning clenched the hilt of the sword and gently took 2 steps forward. Just as he was about to take action, he suddenly heard a voice from outside the door. "Are you going to open the door or not? What are you two doing in there? I can hear your voices." Qian's voice rang out from outside. The two of them breathed a sigh of relief at the same time and put down their weapons. Chang Ning went over and opened the door. Qian walked in with a pout. "Why didn't you wait for me? You are so disloyal." Then she threw the huge luggage backpack to the ground. "The backpack is still at the entrance of the cave, waiting for me to take it. It's such a short distance. Are you bullying a child?" It turned out that the backpack at the entrance of the cave had been taken by her. After Qian threw down her backpack, She saw that the two were silent, so she looked up at Chang Ning and Yan Xiansu suspiciously. Sister, why is your face so red? Ah, is it? Yan Xiansu quickly put her hand on her face. She did feel a little hot, so she explained, maybe I'm too tired after walking all day. Yan Qian stared at Chang Ning again. Why is your face so pale? Chang Ning stretched out his arm and showed it to Yan Qian. I'm injured. Yan Qian was also shocked when she saw the large purple area. What happened? Just now, the two of us entered the passage on the left, and a crazy ghost appeared in the first room. Crazy ghost? Yan Qian was very excited when she heard it. It just so happens that there is no fight today. Where is it? Let me have some fun. I chopped it to death. Chang Ning spread his hands. TSK. Stingy. You didn't even leave any for me. Yan Qian pouted again. Yan Xiansu came over and held Yan Qian's hand. You don't know how dangerous it was just now. If Chang Ning hadn't used his arm to help me block the attack of the crazy ghost, I would have been buried here today. How can you hold back in such a dangerous situation? You must kill it as soon as possible. Yan Qian looked up and stared at Yan Xiansu and Chang Ning for a while, then laughed. I understand. What do you understand? Yan Xiansu asked in confusion. It's unspeakable, unspeakable. Yan Qian put her hands behind her back and pretended to be an adult. Then she jumped up again, took the flashlight off Chang Ning's head and put it on her own head. This cave is so big, there may be other crazy ghosts in it. Let me go and explore it. You two can rest here first. I can't come back for a while. After saying that, she laughed and was about to run. Chang Ning suddenly understood what this naughty kid was doing. When he was in the 21st century, there were often such naughty kids of 8 or 9 among his relatives. They seemed to understand the emotions between adults very well. They liked to make trouble between adults on their own initiative, but usually embarrassed the adults. It was obvious that Yan Qian was doing something similar. Stop. Chang Ning called her. My hand is injured, and I can't work. Your sister is a weak woman, and can't work either. Now we need to set up this overpass camp, and strengthen the guard at the door. Only you can do it. The tunnel outside is indeed very deep, but it is impossible for another insane ghost to be nearby. The area near this is the territory of the insane ghost just now, and other insane ghosts will not come here. So, you just work obediently. You will abuse child labor. Yan Qian's originally narrow eyes became angry. She hated working the most, especially this kind of trivial work. But there were only 3 of them going out. Chang Ning was injured, and her sister was a weak woman, so she also understood that only she could do it. I'll have to bring a few maids with me when I go out next time. Yan Qian turned and walked towards the large backpack that held her luggage, muttering as she walked. After cleaning the floor briefly and laying out her sleeping bag, she went out again and found a boulder weighing about 200 or 300 kilograms outside the tunnel and threw it outside the door. The 3 of them stayed in this small room, had a simple meal, washed up, and made do with the night. At night, Yan Qian tossed and turned, talking to Yan Xiansu and Chang Ning about this and that, but neither of them had the heart to pay attention to her. Chapter 102 Yangcheng. The next morning, Yan Qian moved the big stone at the door. When the sun just rose, the 3 of them were already on the road. The dew in the morning was very heavy. After walking for a while, the 3 people's trousers were all wet. However, the fresh air entered their lungs, and the 3 of them were in a good mood. On the way that day, Chang Ning and Yan Xiansu talked less. The two seemed to have some tacit understanding. If there was anything, they would only talk to Yan Qian. Although Yan Qian was a child, she did not notice this detail. She just carried a huge backpack all the way, jumping and hopping, immersed in the excitement of going out. The terrain here is quite different from Yancheng. The surroundings of Yancheng are basically the ruins of the old world, and the forest is full of various ruins. And this road is basically wild scenery, and there are very few traces of human beings. Yan Qian thinks that the birds singing on the treetops are particularly crisp. Chang Ning was walking in the green forest, and he was also in a good mood. He couldn't help humming a popular song of the 21st century. Yan Qian had heard him sing many times, but it was the first time for Yan Xiansu. The stars in her eyes could not help but increase. After walking for 2 hours, she climbed a small hill and saw a large lake in the distance. Is this here? Yan Xianzu wiped her sweat. It is the hottest weather of the year. If it were in the 21st century, a girl like Yan Xianzu would be wearing hot pants and short sleeves. But she could only wear black and gold clothes and an old coat with a wasteland style on the outside when she was trekking through the dense forest in the apocalypse. It was strong and had strong protective ability, but it lacked some beauty and was very stuffy. It had just started, and it was far from the hottest time at noon, but her face was already flushed. Leaning against a tree to rest, Yan Xianzu missed the time she took a boat yesterday. Chang Ning also stood beside her and looked towards the lake. He compared the scenery left and right. It's not here. The lake in Yangcheng should be bigger than this, and there are no hills by the lake. Ah. How long will it take to walk? Yan Xianzu couldn't help complaining. Yan Qian cushioned the huge backpack on her back and couldn't help but look at Yan Xianzu with a weakling's eyes, which made Yan Xianzu roll his eyes at her. Chang Ning took out a compass, checked the direction, climbed to the top of the tree to compare the terrain, and jumped down a few minutes later. Although it's not here, it's not far away. Go over there, and it will take about 1 or 2 hours to get there. Yan Xianzu breathed a sigh of relief. Then let's go. The 2-day and 1-night trip was about to reach the destination. The three of them were very excited and couldn't help but speed up their pace. Less than an hour later, they suddenly heard a rumbling sound coming from the front, as if the dark clouds close to the ground were thundering continuously. What's the sound? Chang Ning stopped and pricked up his ears suspiciously. Yan Qian also stopped. She looked up and saw the cloudless sky, wondering, it's not raining yet? Why is it thundering? Yan Xianzu stared at the front for a while. It should be from Yangcheng. Chang Ning was uneasy. Could it be that the arsenal was blown up over there? Why was there such a big noise? What if there are heavy casualties in this explosion? How can we cooperate? Not long after the sound came, the ground under Chang Ning's feet began to tremble, as if a small earthquake had occurred. This vibration. It can't be a large explosion, right? The three of them couldn't help but speed up their pace again, wanting to quickly reach Yangcheng and see what was going on. At a speed that was almost trotting, Chang Ning led the two to the location of Yangcheng in less than half an hour. Although there was still a dense forest ahead, human voices could be heard across the forest. After advancing a few hundred meters, the sound gradually became clearer, and it was the cheers of a large group of people. Such overwhelming cheers were estimated to be made by thousands of people. What happened in front? Did the people in Yangcheng light up the arsenal for the festival? Chang Ning became more and more confused. Stop. Where are you from? Just as the cheers of the crowd became clearer and clearer, a group of people suddenly jumped out of the forest in front, led by a man with sly eyes about 30 years old. Is it a patrol team? Chang Ning was not surprised. It was normal to establish a patrol team around the town. The team of 5 or 6 people. The leader was holding a fine steel broadsword, and the others behind him were holding crude spears. After jumping out from behind the bushes, they walked towards Chang Ning and his group. Chang Ning also took a few steps forward and was about to greet them and explain his purpose. But the leader, the sly-looking man, suddenly let out a strange cry, threw all the steel knives on the ground, and then turned and ran away. While running, he shouted, "City Lord. It's bad. The people of Yancheng are here to take revenge. City Lord, help me." The few minions behind him saw the leader running away, looked at each other, and ran back behind him, throwing their weapons all over the ground. This. Chang Ning looked at Yan Xianzu, and then at Yan Qian. He thought to himself, are the three of us so scary? Obviously, we are all handsome and gentle people. It is estimated that they were the ones who followed Yang Bao to attack Yanqing at the beginning, so they saw that they were so guilty. Yang Qian saw that they turned around and ran away without saying hello to her, and suddenly a nameless anger rose. She also ran as fast as she could, following the group of people. Stop. Stop right there. Hey Qian. Slow down. Yan Xianzu was anxious. They came to negotiate with Yangcheng, not to fight. If Yan Qian chased after them like this, it would be easy to be misunderstood. Chang Ning also slapped his forehead. The strongest fighter on their side happened to be a mentally incomplete miner. So the two of them also ran wildly behind Yunkai and Qian and chased after them all the way. If there was a drone in the sky at this time, it should be clearly visible that there were 5 or 6 people running wildly in the front on the ground, and there was a small figure chasing them nearly 100 meters away, and there were 2 more dozens of meters behind. The speed of the small figure in the middle was the fastest, but the group in front was obviously familiar with the terrain and often left the figure behind a long way behind with a turn. The 3 groups of people were in echelon formation, running towards a large lake where thousands of people gathered. Soon, the patrol team of Yang Cheng was the first to rush out of the forest and enter the open area by the lake. Just like a drop of water merging into the sea, it rushed into the huge crowd and disappeared. Then, Yunkai and Qian also rushed out of the forest. Seeing so many people gathered, she was a little confused for a moment. Then Chang Ning and Yunkai and Su also came out of the forest panting. Seeing Yunkai and Qian's back, they hurried forward and grabbed her by one arm each. Those people are too rude. Yunkai and Qian still looked indignant. They are just a few minions. Do you have to be angry with them? Yunkai and Su said unhappily. That's right. Chang Ning also joined in. Just as he was about to say something else, he suddenly saw thousands of people in front of him parting like a tide, making way for a passage. At the end of the passage was the lake, and these 2 people stood by the lake, majestic and extraordinary. It was Yang Bao, the lord of Yangcheng, and Lin Yuqian, the lord of Lincheng. On the shore behind the 2 men, there was a giant beast lying there that was over 20 meters tall and about 60 to 70 meters long. Chapter 103 Yang Bao shows his power. Time goes back to 15 minutes ago. An unusual wind blew over the huge lake next to Yangcheng. The morning sun shone on the earth, and everything was quiet. In the distant forest, the treetops swayed slightly, as if the trees were stretching. Whoosh, the lake was windy and surging, forming a huge contrast with the surrounding tranquility. Thousands of people crowded in the open space by the lake, watching the movement on the lake. Are you ready? A thin man on the lake came lightly, stepping on the water one step at a time, only causing small ripples. If this set of kung fu was placed in the old world, it would definitely be praised by people as light kung fu floating on the water. The woman on the shore was blown by the wind, her hair and robe fluttering. She faced the rising sun, and her snow-white face showed an almost holy expression. Ready. The man and woman were naturally Lin Yuqian, the lord of Lincheng, and Yang Bao, the lord of Yangcheng. Hearing Yang Bao say that he was ready, Lin Yuqian nodded, stretched out his hand, and swung out a long rope, tied it to Yang Bao. Then he turned around and ran rapidly on the lake. As he ran, Yang Bao was pulled up by the rope and flew into the air like a kite. The wind on the lake was originally strong, and such a strange scene did not seem so abrupt. Lin Yuqian pulled Yang Bao to the place where the wind was the strongest. After a while, they came to a place close to the center of the lake. The wind here was like a tornado, and even a vortex was blown out on the lake. Lin Yuqian looked up and shouted to Yang Bao with difficulty, "Bao, we are here." Yang Bao's fair face had been deformed by the strong wind, and he couldn't even open his eyes. Hearing Lin Yuqian's words, she raised her hand. A purple electric current gradually gathered near her fingertips, crackling in the strong wind. The electric current gradually grew until it became much thicker than Yang Bao. Now, Lin Yuqian had already passed the vortex on the water surface and could faintly see a huge shadow under the vortex. The purple electric current in Yang Bao's hand suddenly became brighter and instantly became countless times larger, shooting downward in the direction of her finger. Lin Yuqian increased her speed again, and in almost an instant, she took Yang Bao away from the vortex. Boom. The electric current accurately hit the center of the vortex, and there seemed to be a mournful cry in the lake. The entire lake surface instantly raised huge waves, and the crest of the wave seemed to swallow up the 2 people on the lake. But Lin Yuqian's speed seemed to have no limit. He accelerated again, turned out a big arc, and approached the shore from the side of the lake. The lake water behind the 2 people was surging, and the entire lake surface was like a pot of boiling water, boiling non-stop. A rumbling low sound came from underground, as if because of Yang Bao's electric current, the crust under the lake surface was shaking. Wow. Huge waves surged out of the lake, pouring water on the heads and faces of thousands of people watching on the shore, but they seemed very excited. No one ran away, and they all stared at the lake intently. Lin Yuqian took Yang Bao with a chic leap, perfectly avoiding the surging waves, then circled along the shore and returned to the crowd. Gradually, the wind on the lake died down. After a while, a huge body floated out of the lake, belly up, obviously dead. Yeah. The crowd cheered. Everyone rushed to Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian, lifted them up, and threw them into the air, fully releasing their love for the two awakened leaders. Some people immediately propped up the boat and went to the lake to salvage the small fish and shrimps that floated up with the giant beast. Yang Bao seemed a little weak and could only smile bitterly and go with the flow, being thrown up and caught by the crowd. Lin Yuqian ran away again the moment he was thrown into the air. After a while, he pulled a rope and asked several mountain movers in Yangcheng to pull the rope and pull the body of the monster in the lake to the shore. The last evil beast in Yangcheng Lake was finally destroyed. You know, the residents of Yangcheng love and hate the big lake near their city. From the ancestors, who knew how many generations ago to the recent years, people have been killed by the lake. There have been several giant evil beasts living in the lake since a long time ago. They keep making trouble in the lake and sometimes take the initiative to attack humans on the shore. But the main source of food and water in Yangcheng comes from this big lake. Even in the most difficult years, the ancestors of Yangcheng could barely fill their stomachs and survive the famine by catching some crabs in the lake every day. As long as there is this big lake, there will be no shortage of food in Yangcheng. But this big lake has also killed too many people, and the residents of Yangcheng and the surrounding towns hate the evil beasts in the lake. Now, the last evil beast was killed by the cooperation of the city lord Yang Bao and the foreign aide Lin Yuqian. How could the residents of Yangcheng not be excited? When everyone was cheering, several people from the patrol team suddenly rushed in a panic. Oh no. Help. The people from Yangcheng are here to take revenge. The sly patrol captain ran and shouted all the way to the lake. Yang Bao was a little exhausted at this time. He frowned and said weakly, "What's wrong, old son? Why are you so flustered again? What happened? Tell me slowly." Old son swallowed his saliva. "City lord. Oh no. The people from Yangcheng are coming to kill us. I saw it clearly. It was the city lord of Yangcheng and her sister who killed people without blinking an eye. They are so fierce. I was scared to death. Help quickly." Yang Bao was also shocked. She had just released all her star power. She was weak all day today and couldn't fight against the enemy. As for Lin Yuqian, he suffered a loss at the hands of Yun Kai and Qian last time. It was obvious that he couldn't beat Yun Kai and Qian. What should we do if the enemy comes to kill us? Lin Yuqian was not in a hurry. Don't listen to what Leo's son said. Maybe they are not here to fight. Not here to fight? Are they here to visit? Yang Bao said unhappily. Lin Yuqian smiled mysteriously. Have you forgotten what the man named Xiang Bao said last time? Then they don't need to be so anxious. Just ask the city lord to come over, right? We should be the ones to ask them for help in this matter. Maybe things have changed. Don't be afraid. Let's welcome the guests. Yang Bao nodded reluctantly and shouted to the people around him, "Make way for the guests to come in." So Chang Ning, Yun Kai and Qian and Yun Xiansu saw the dark crowd automatically separate and go straight to the lake. Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian stood quietly by the lake, looking at each other from a distance. Seeing that there were only 3 of them, Yang Bao was relieved. It was obvious that they were not here to cause trouble. She glanced at Leo's son in a reproachful way, and Leo's son was so scared that he ran away with his neck shrunk. Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian walked towards Chang Ning and the other 2 along the passage, separated by the crowd, and Chang Ning and the others also walked in the opposite direction. After a while, several people met in the crowd. "Lord Yun, long time no see, how are you these days?" Yang Bao greeted first. Yun Xiansu smiled at her. "Hello, Lord Yang, sorry to bother you." Lin Yuqian also smiled and nodded to the 3 people behind Yang Bao. They all knew each other. Even if they had never dealt with each other before, they had detailed information about each other. But Lin Yuqian and Yang Bao were very unfamiliar with Chang Ning. And this young man stood in the C position, and it seemed that Yun Xiansu and Yun Kai and Qian were very convinced of him. The 2 couldn't help but look at Chang Ning. Seeing this, Yun Xiansu introduced, "This is Chang Ning Chang Jiangzhang, our new partner in Yuncheng." Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian suddenly realized that they had also heard that Yuncheng had a new master level awakener, a master of architecture, and it turned out to be this young man. Chang Ning bowed to the two of them and said, "Lord Yang, Lord Lin, hello. Actually, we have met before." He was referring to the last time when Lin Yuqian and Yang Bao followed the descendants of Yunrong and led people to Yuncheng. They had met each other a few hundred meters apart, although Lin Yuqian and Yang Bao did not notice him at that time. Chang Ning planned to ask about the descendants of Yunrong after discussing the business. As the host, Yang Bao smiled politely at Chang Ning. "Master Chang, I have heard of your great name for a long time." Young Qian squeezed out from behind Chang Ning and looked at the huge corpse on the lake in the distance and said, "Are we here at the right time? What are you doing? Hunting?" Yang Bao smiled and said, "Yes, we just hunted the last evil beast in Yangcheng Lake." Young Qian looked regretful. "I'm late and can't join in the fun." Yang Bao made a gesture of invitation to the three people. "Thank you for coming from afar. Let's go to the city and talk slowly." As he said that, he led the three people and walked towards the east forest with Lin Yuqian. Chang Ning and the other two followed behind, looking around curiously along the way. Chang Ning whispered to Yun Xiansu, "That evil beast looks quite powerful, at least at the Grand Master level. What ability does Yang Bao have? She can actually kill such a big evil beast." Yun Xiansu also whispered back, "Yang Bao is a rare elemental awakener who can control the two element of ice and electricity, and can cause remote damage from a distance. It's quite powerful." Chang Ning was stunned. Isn't this the kind of profession like the mage in the game he played in the 21st century? I didn't expect that there would be a mage among the awakeners. This is too cool. Although my refresh is more practical, it's not as cool as a wizard. She not only awakened the elemental control, but also evolved. Yun Xiansu continued to whisper in Chang Ning's ear, chatting about Yang Bao's gossip. It turned out that, because Yangcheng has been troubled by the evil beast in the lake, the position of the city lord has been inherited by the strong for a long time. The strongest person in the city automatically becomes the city lord of Yangcheng. Yang Bao awakened the Stargate element system at the age of 12. She was a master awakener who could control the ice element. At that time, she was already very powerful and was one of the strong candidates for the next city lord. Later, at the age of 17, she evolved again and gained another element that she could control, the electric element. At the same time, her strength broke through the master level and entered the grand master level. She immediately became the strongest person in the entire Yangcheng. Later, she took over the position of city lord, established good relations with the nearby Lincheng, and worked hard to kill several lake beasts that had been a disaster for Yangcheng for 100 years. She also became the most beloved city lord of Yangcheng. When Yun Xiansu talked about Yang Bao, he also looked admiring. Chang Ning touched his chin and thought, Yang Bao's awakening ability can actually evolve. Before, Zhen Yang told himself in Yaozhen what level of ability the average person awakens, and basically it is this level of ability for life. I don't know how she evolved. Is there any trick? Soon, they came to a stone wall and turned into the city gate. Inside, there were rows of 2- and 3-story stone houses. It seemed that this was Yangcheng. I'm not in a good mood today, so I will stop here for this chapter. Chapter 104, Past Events in Yangcheng. The first human settlement Chang Ning saw after coming to this world was Yaozhen. The style of Yaozhen was very primitive, so much so that when Chang Ning just woke up in Yaozhen, he thought he had come to thousands of years ago through the black hole in the laboratory. The whole town there was low wooden houses, with a rough and simple style. Most people wore animal skins, and very few had coarse linen clothes. Now Chang Ning recalled that those suspected linen clothes were probably not real linen, but woven from some plant fibers that were thicker and harder than hemp leaves. It felt that, if people in the 21st century wore such clothes, they would be covered with bloodstains in less than a day. Later, Chang Ning went to Yuncheng. The style here is far from primitive society. Tall buildings, simple elevators, a group of humans living on the 17th to 21st floors, as well as mushroom plantations, fish processing plants. The simple but creative Yancheng is more like the cyberpunk style that Chang Ning had come into contact with before. Especially after Chang Ning added many diesel generators and a large number of lighting facilities to Yancheng. At night, the whole Yancheng flickers with dim but colorful lights. From a distance, it looks like a hazy fantasy. In addition to animal skins, the people of Yancheng also have many clothes left over from the old world, various types of textile fibers, polymer composite materials that Chang Ning has never seen, and even clothes made of woven bags from the old world. The whole Yancheng is colorful and fascinating. Now, Chang Ning has come to Yancheng, which is a completely different style. The mottled stone walls, winding and enveloping the entire Yancheng in their arms. Although the stacked stones are of different sizes, uneven, and do not look neat, they also have a different rhythm that will not drive obsessive compulsive disorder to death. Looking at Chang Ning, he feels like the remains of the Great Wall of the Spring and Autumn period that he has seen in the 21st century. This stone wall is obviously a bit old. There are clumps of grass growing in the cracks of the stone, and there are also a few small trees sprouting with difficulty on the top of the wall. The entire wall is about 4 to 5 meters high, a little higher than the wooden wall of Yaosan. Looking over the city wall, you can see that the stone houses in the city are lined up one after another, scattered on a hill. There is a huge stone house on the top of the hill, which looks like the palace of the Acropolis in ancient Greece. The whole Yancheng gives people a very classical and beautiful feeling, which is different from Yaosan and Yancheng. In the process of approaching Yancheng, Chang Ning was thinking that if there were no survival problems in the doomsday and the material was rich enough, it would probably be a very enjoyable thing to travel one by one in the human settlements in the doomsday. Yang Bao took Chang Ning, Yan Xiansu, Yan Qian, and Lin Yuqian into the ancient city wall of Yancheng and came to the interior of the city. Unlike Yaosan, which has 2 streets in the east and west and north and south, Yancheng has only one main road, which is about 10 meters wide, but there are many alleys densely distributed on the main road. Most of the houses on both sides of the main road are 2 or 3 stories high, generally some shops and offices of Yancheng's administrative agencies. And in the countless alleys extending out, most of them are single-story stone houses, which look like residential houses. Judging from the layout of the houses, Yancheng is probably not a purely public ownership system like Yancheng. Their residents should have some private property, and different residences are divided into different clans. Some alleys obviously have very large courtyards, where clothes, dried fish and other root plants are dried, and there are many children running and playing, like a clan family composed of larger surnames. Several people followed the main road to a location roughly in the center of the city. On the left, another main road was divided, which was also about 10 meters wide, winding and bending, leading all the way to the top of the hill in the city. This way, please. Yang Bao pointed to the road on the left, made a gesture, and then walked over first. Lin Yuqian seemed to be very familiar with Yancheng. Walking around the city, he felt like he was at home. He shook his thin body, past Yang Bao, and floated leisurely up the mountain. Yan Xiansu and Yan Qian also came to Yancheng for the first time. Like Chang Ning, they looked around and were full of curiosity about everything in Yancheng. Most of the local residents of Yancheng went to the lake to watch the excitement. The city was quiet. Only a few curious children looked out of their doors at the guests from afar. It seemed that the years were peaceful. After walking for a while, they arrived at the small palace on the top of the hill. This is actually a 3-story courtyard. It seems that it should be the office and residence of the Lord of Yancheng. There was a sentry standing guard at the door. When they saw Yang Bao bringing people over, several young men raised their heads and looked their most energetic. Yang Bao smiled and greeted them, and then invited Chang Ning and the other 2 to enter the courtyard. The first courtyard was about 20 meters long and 30 to 40 meters wide. There were some wooden stakes and huge stone pillars in the courtyard. People should practice martial arts here. After crossing the courtyard, they came to a lobby, which was about 100 square meters. There was a huge stone chair in the innermost part of the hall. Dozens of iron swords were densely inserted on the stone chair. All of them were deeply embedded in the stone, with only the hilt and a small section of the blade exposed. There are 2 rows of wooden chairs on both sides of the stone chair, 8 on each side, and 17 chairs in the entire lobby. It should be the place where Yang Cheng's high-level officials usually gather. Please sit down. Yang Bao pointed at the wooden chair and smiled at Chang Ning and the others, then walked a few steps forward and came to the huge stone chair. Is this your first time in Yangcheng? This stone chair is a treasure of Yangcheng. Yang Bao introduced it to everyone and gently stroked the hilt behind the chair. Isn't it just a chair made of an ordinary stone? It doesn't look anything special. Young Qian was as straightforward as ever. Yang Bao smiled and explained. 200 years ago, there were 48 small towns around the big lake in Yangcheng. Everyone acted as one, but no one was submissive to anyone else. If someone from the outside came to Yangcheng Lake to look for food or provoke, the people of the 48 towns would unite and attack them. But when there was no threat from the outside, the people of the 48 towns would fight each other again. Later, a great hero who was above the ordinary emerged in the 48 towns. He persuaded the people of the 48 towns to unite as one and never fight each other again. He also mobilized people to build a new city and moved in. This is how today's Yangcheng came into being. The original leaders of the 48 towns handed their weapons to the great hero to show their submission. The great hero inserted all these weapons into the stone chair he was sitting on, indicating that he would treat everyone in the 48 towns as his own relatives. Later, Yangcheng continued to exist as a large integrated city, and every Yangcheng city lord would treat everyone in Yangcheng as his own relatives. This chair is a source of power for every Yangcheng city lord, and it is also the constraint for every Yangcheng city lord. Young Qian was stunned when she heard Yang Bao's words. Chang Ning thought to himself that the founder of Yangcheng was also above the extraordinary. But is his persuasion serious? I'm afraid it's not physical persuasion, but his expression was still full of admiration and yearning, as if he was imagining the style of the great hero back then. Chang Ning knew that the huge buildings and huge inventory of materials in Yangcheng made all the surrounding cities pale in comparison. In fact, they were somewhat unconfident when they met the people of Yangcheng, so they would try their best to talk about the advantages and history of their own city to enhance their momentum. For better cooperation, Chang Ning and Yan Xians who chose to support Yang Bao, with a few words of complimenting each other, the atmosphere among the people present became more and more harmonious. The maid in Yang Bao's residence presented several ceramic cups to everyone. Chang Ning looked down and saw that there were actually a few green tea leaves in the cups. Take a sip, and it was full of fragrance. After coming to the Doomsday for so long, this was the first time Chang Ning had tea. He couldn't help but have another impression of Yangcheng. Exquisite. At least it is more sophisticated than Yangcheng. People in Yangcheng can place a fish processing plant in the building where they live, and it is on the same floor as the canteen. Chang Ning always feels uneasy when thinking about it. It is obvious that Yan Xianzu and Yan Qian, the two country sisters from Yangcheng, have never drunk tea. They imitated Chang Ning and sipped the liquid in the cup. Yan Xianzu showed a look of surprise, while Yan Qian frowned. Why is it so bitter? Chang Ning smiled and said to Yang Bao, it's really good tea. I didn't expect to taste such delicious tea in Yangcheng. Yang Bao put down the teacup and started to get to the point. As long as Chang Jiangzong likes it. I wonder if you all have anything to do with coming from afar? Chang Ning also became serious. It's like this. Our people went to the southern city a few days ago and brought back an important news. Then, he gave Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian a detailed introduction to the news of the thousands of crazy ghosts brought back by Xiang Bao. Is there such a thing? Lin Yuqian couldn't help but stand up, his face full of worry. Yang Bao looked a little bit unbelievable. This was very different from her impression that the insane ghosts lived alone. Thousands of insane ghosts swept along the coast from the south, which sounded like a myth. She was about to ask a question, but Lin Yuqian stopped her with his hand. When I was a teenager, I hadn't taken over as the Lord of Lincheng yet. At that time, I liked to wander around. He said slowly, at that time, I went west along the river to see where the source of the river was. I walked a long way and passed many cities and towns. Thousands of miles to the west, I found a city called Jiang'an. The city was built very large, and many new residences were built on the ruins of the old world, which could accommodate tens of thousands of people. But when I went there were only 3 or 400 people in the city, huddled in a corner of the city, and the rest of the city was abandoned. Guess why? Yang Bao felt curious. Lin Yuqian's words must be related to Chang Ning's information just now. Could it be robbed by the insane ghost brigade? Chang Ning Yunshiansu also looked at Lin Yuqian, wanting to hear his answer. Today is the same chapter. Chapter 105, Agreement. Lin Yuqian is a Grand Master Awakener of the Gale system. He can even be said to be the fastest runner in a large area around Yancheng, Yangcheng, Lincheng, etc. As we all know, once people run fast, most of them are not satisfied with the current survival radius, and they will want to see poetry in distant places. In the 21st century, when Chang Ning lived in the past, traveling has always been a long-lasting entertainment project, largely because people's travel was fast and convenient at that time. In the distant ancient times, or in the current doomsday wasteland environment, almost no one can be seen traveling. Most people are still struggling on the line of food and clothing. Even if they want to go far away, they are almost scared away by the long-term and extremely dangerous travel status. Lin Yuqian is different. He has been wandering around Lincheng since he was a child. After awakening the Grandmaster level Gale system ability at the age of 16, he wandered further and further. Ordinary people need to rush for a whole day to walk from Lincheng to Yangcheng, but he can get there in almost half an hour at the speed of strolling. From then on, he became an avid hiker in the end times, visited many towns, and made many friends. For example, Yang Bao, who was not yet the city lord of Yangcheng at that time, was met at that time. Later, when he was in his 20s, he ran farther and farther. He once walked along the coastline to the north to a place with ice and snow all year round, and also walked along the river to the west to a plateau very close to the sky. Jiangyan City was one of the places he passed by on that trip along the river to the west. There used to be a city with a population of 40,000 to 50,000, which was an absolute giant force in the end times. The reason why so many people can gather is that there are large tracts of fertile fields around Jiangyan City. Even after experiencing the doomsday disaster, the fields can still grow some food by themselves. After hundreds of years of exploration, the people of Jiangyan City have gradually mastered agricultural technology and become one of the few human settlements in the end times that do not rely on fishing and hunting. In more than 100 years of development, a large population has gradually accumulated. And all this prosperity came to an abrupt end one night more than a decade ago. A group of more than 500 heartless ghosts quietly came to Jiangyan City that night. They killed anyone they saw, and each of them had strange abilities and agile postures. The people of Jiangyan City were not prepared at all. They didn't know where this group of heartless ghosts came from, nor did they know why hundreds of them gathered together. Jiangyan City originally had 300 or 400 awakened people. If they could prepare in advance and organize their manpower, they would still have a chance to fight against the army of heartless ghosts. But when people reacted, everything was too late. The next day, there were only a few hundred people left in the big city with a population of 40,000 to 50,000. The once prosperous Jiangyan City degenerated into Jiangyan Town, and the people who survived also collapsed completely. Like a walking corpse, they no longer had the spirit of the people in the prosperous Jiangyan City. With the narration of Lin Yuqian's low voice, the tragedy that occurred in a prosperous town in the upper reaches of the river more than 10 years ago gradually surfaced and appeared in front of Yang Bao, Chang Ning, Yun Xiansu, and Yun Qian in the lobby. Yun Qian shuddered and showed a frightened expression. If Chang Ning hadn't known that she was the best fighter in the room, he would have been fooled by her lolly scared point JPG. Chang Ning, Yun Xiansu and Yang Bao all frowned. Chang Ning and Yun Xiansu imagined that encountering a large group of lost heart ghosts would be particularly tragic. But they didn't expect that such a thing had already happened. More than a decade ago, a human town encountered such a tragedy. Yang Bao was even more shocked. She began to seriously consider what Chang Ning had just said. What would happen if there were really thousands of lost heart ghosts along the coast all the way north and passed by Yangcheng? The result of thinking was chilling. Everyone was silent for a while, and Chang Ning, took over the conversation. Each of our cities is far less powerful than the original Jiangyan city, and the Lost Heart Ghost team coming this time is also more than the Lost Heart Ghosts that destroyed Jiangyan town last time. If we do nothing and let them come, what will happen? I'm afraid I don't need to say more. Several people present nodded in agreement. Then, it's obvious what to do. We are better than the people in Jiangyan city at that time. We knew the movements of the army of the Lost Heart Ghosts in advance. But we are also weaker than the people in Jiangyan city at that time. There are hundreds of awakened people in Jiangyan city, and there are only dozens in each of our cities. Therefore, the current plan is to unite all the people around us who can be united, twist them into a rope, and fight against the Lost Heart Ghosts together. In this way, we can all survive. Lin Yuqian and Yang Bao looked at each other and nodded. Lin Yuqian said to Chang Ning, what Chang Jiangzong said makes sense, but our Lincheng and Yangcheng are not the same as your Yancheng. If our people go to fight against the Lost Heart Ghosts and don't do anything productive. As he said that, a trace of embarrassment appeared on his old face. Chang Ning glanced at Yan Xianzu, then turned to Lin Yuqian and said with a smile, City Lord Lin, you are worrying too much. Last time you wanted to share the Yancheng treasure house. Yancheng had not found the real treasure house at that time, so they rejected you. A few days ago, we really found a huge warehouse, and the supplies in it are enough for the people of Yangcheng, Lincheng, Yancheng and other surrounding cities to survive. When facing a big enemy, we will not treat you as outsiders, and you don't have to be hypocritical. Just use the supplies from Yancheng. Lin Yuqian gave a thumbs up. Chang Jiangzang, you are open-minded. He turned to Yang Bao and said, I'm going to take everyone in Lincheng to Yancheng. What about you, Bao? Yang Bao smiled apologetically at Yan Xianzu and Chang Ning. Speaking of which, the last incident was instigated by the villain. In fact, we have no grudge against Yancheng. Now that we have a common enemy, we should advance and retreat together. Yan Xianzu also smiled at the two of them. Then on behalf of Yancheng, I welcome the two city lords and your people. Chang Ning interrupted and said, speaking of the last incident, who was the person who took you there? That person. Lin Yuqian sighed. Actually, he is an old man in our Lincheng. Their Yan family was once one of the big families in Lincheng, and has served Lincheng for more than 100 years. But their family is always mysterious and claims to be the master of Yancheng. So every once in a while, when the Lord of Yancheng changes, they will go there to plot something. At first, it was people from their own family who went there. Later, in recent years, the Yan family in Lincheng gradually declined, and only one heir was left. So this time, when we heard that the Lord of Yancheng took office, we were encouraged to go there together, saying that Yancheng has a huge treasure house, and when the time comes, we will share some of it with our two cities to ensure that we will never starve. Chang Ning waved his hand, indicating that he didn't need to say anything more. In the doomsday, fighting for survival materials is a matter of course, it's just a matter of who has the bigger fist. According to Lin Yuqian's statement, after Yan Rang's descendants ran away from Yancheng, they went to Lincheng and lived in Lincheng for more than 100 years. But the population has been sparse in recent years, and the one I shot last time seemed to be the last descendant of Yan Rang. Chapter 106 Crab Eaters. Poor Yan Rang, a hero in his lifetime, was able to continue to live for more than 100 years, even after being plotted against, but he eventually died before his death. The founding family of Yancheng disappeared forever in the long river of history less than 300 years after the founding of Yancheng. This may also be a kind of historical destiny. Chang Ning no longer dwelled on these things. Together with Yan Xianzu, he discussed the specific matters of the relocation of the two cities with Lin Yuqian and Yang Bao. In terms of direction, Lincheng and Yangcheng are both in the northwest of Yancheng. If the army of the Lost Heart Ghosts comes from the south, they are both in the rear position. However, no one can guarantee the route of the army of the Lost Heart Ghosts, so the two cities cannot be simply regarded as safe places. After several people discussed, they decided to relocate most of the population of the two cities to Yancheng, leaving only a few teams of strong men and horses for patrol and communication. There are nearly 5,000 people in the two places, a large part of whom are the elderly, weak, women and children. It is obviously unrealistic for such a large group of people to march through the forest for 2 or 3 days. Chang Ning knew that once the number of people went up, the efficiency of command would decrease exponentially. In the doomsday, basically no one had the ability to command thousands of people, let alone 5,000 people. Therefore, the plan proposed by Chang Ning was to use the fleet of Yancheng as a support, so that the people of the two cities would only walk on land for about half a day, and the rest of the journey would be by boat, which would be much safer and more efficient. The route of Yancheng could follow the road that Chang Ning and his team took when they came. As for the location of Lincheng, after drawing a sand table with Lin Yuqian for a long time, Chang Ning also roughly determined it. Compared with Yancheng, the location of Lincheng is closer to the river, similar to Yancheng, and it takes more than an hour to walk to the riverside. Therefore, the transportation route of Lincheng mainly relies on the river. Yanchians who will send people to Lincheng to determine a boarding pier, and then the people of Lincheng will take a boat down the river to Yancheng. The negotiation process was much smoother than expected. Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian both fully trusted and attached great importance to the matter of the Lost Heart Ghost Army. Therefore, the few people only discussed briefly for more than half an hour, and they had already reached a successful agreement. It was just time for lunch. Since we came to Yancheng, we had to taste the specialties of Yancheng. In the morning, when Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian cooperated to fry fish, in addition to killing the last evil beast in Yancheng Lake, they also affected countless innocent small fish and shrimps. While they were discussing, the people in Yancheng had almost picked up all the fish and shrimps that could be picked up. The whole Yancheng is now filled with smoke and the fresh fragrance of fish and shrimps. In the open space, the fish and shrimps here lack the fishy smell of Yancheng, leaving only the freshness. Yang Bao asked someone to carry a large table into the hall, and then invited everyone to sit down and have lunch together. The lunch in the city lord's mansion is also a variety of fish and shrimps. Some are roasted, some are stewed, some are fried, and some are deep fried, filling up a large table. Chang Ning looked around and said, "Aren't there a lot of crabs in your Yancheng lake? Why can't I see any crabs?" Yang Bao, who was picking up a piece of tender fish and preparing to eat it, was stunned. Lin Yuqian also laughed beside him. "Chang Jiangzang, you don't know that, although crabs are the most abundant thing in Yancheng Lake, no one eats them." "No one eats them? Why?" Chang Ning remembered that the Yancheng Lake hairy crabs, which were sold at a very high price in the 21st century, became something no one wanted in the doomsday. In the past, during famine years, when hunting was unsuccessful, fishing was unsuccessful, and even the wild fruits on the trees and the wild vegetables in the fields were eaten up, only the poor would eat crabs. That thing is difficult to handle and fishy. Eating several of them still doesn't fill your stomach, and eating too much may cause diarrhea. If there is nothing to eat, who would eat that? However, crabs have helped many people survive famine, so it is also a good thing. It's just that no one eats it normally. Chang Ning nodded. Indeed, crabs are very difficult to handle. A crab looks big, but there is so much meat inside. The ancients were particular about eating a crab. It takes several different tools to separate the meat from different parts of the crab. In a doomsday, when eating enough food is a problem, people probably don't have the mood to eat crabs carefully. If the goal is to fill your stomach, crabs are definitely not a good food choice. Only in times of famine do people rely on eating crabs to survive. Okay. Perhaps when humans have enough food and clothing again, and material prosperity comes, crabs will become the darling of the dinner table again. Before Chang Ning came to Yancheng, he wanted to eat a big meal of crabs from Yancheng Lake. In the 21st century, that thing was very precious, and Chang Ning was reluctant to eat it freely. But now seeing that Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian both looked down on crabs, it was not good to let them cook crabs for him alone. So he had to eat fish and shrimp with everyone. But it was different from the flavor of Yancheng. The chefs here seemed to be more ingenious, unlike the chefs in Yancheng, who always felt careless when cooking for hundreds or thousands of people at a time with big pots and big spoons. It's better to cook small. The meal was also a happy one for both the host and the guests. After the meal, Yang Bao invited Chang Ning, Yanchian Su, Yankian Qian and others to stay in Yancheng for a few more days and have fun nearby. Lin Yuqian also invited them to visit Lincheng, but they were all rejected. Originally, there was a stop in Lincheng in the itinerary, but since we met Lin Yuqian in Yangcheng, there was no need to make an extra trip to Lincheng, since the purpose had been achieved. Chang Ning and Yan Xiansu asked Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian to invite the small towns around Lincheng and Yangcheng to Yancheng, and then they stood up and said goodbye. Since the invitation of other towns went so smoothly, the rest of the things had to be done quickly. The first was the problem of food delivery. When the food was only for the people of Yancheng, it could be transported by manpower. But if there were to be tens of thousands more people at once, it would be a waste to transport food only by people. Chang Ning planned to go back to Yancheng to fix the central control system of the Emergency Disaster Relief Material Allocation Center to see if he could restore the robot's transportation in and out of the warehouse through the computer of Xiao, the warehouse manager before the doomsday. Then there was the housing problem. They had discussed before that Yangcheng and Lincheng were the nearest human towns, and after their first wave came, Yancheng had enough housing. If people from other larger cities such as Wencheng, Zhenhaicheng, Qiantangcheng, etc. come from far away, there will definitely not be enough housing. They plan to use the huge building of Yancheng as a castle, and rely on Yancheng for defense when the Lost Heart Ghosts come to attack. But before the arrival of the Lost Heart Ghosts, everyone can't crowd into Yancheng every day. It is still necessary to build some new houses outside the buildings of Yancheng for people to live in. And in these houses, Chang Ning wants to bury water, electricity, gas and other pipelines in advance during construction. In this way, a number of modern residential areas can be built. In short, there are too many things to do, and no time to stay longer. Why don't I take you to the place where you board the ship, so that you can get familiar with the way? Seeing that Chang Ning and the others were unwilling to leave, Yang Bao suddenly suggested. Chapter 107 Fleet Expansion. Okay. Chang Ning agreed. He just happened to have something to ask Yang Bao. He was very curious about Yang Bao's ability level after awakening. Lin Yuqian curled his lips and didn't join in the fun. He went to find other familiar people in Yangcheng to play with. Yang Bao took Chang Ning, Yan Xiansu and Yan Qian out of the city lord's mansion, went down the mountain, passed through the city gate, and walked out of Yangcheng. At this time, most of the crowds crowded by the lake in Yangcheng had dispersed, and the evil beasts that had fallen like a hill by the lake before were nowhere to be seen. The lake was quiet and the scenery was pleasant. If it weren't for the end of the world, it would be a good place for vacation. Chang Ning and Yang Bao walked in front, and Yan Xiansu and Yan Qian followed behind. Chang Ning finally had the opportunity to ask Yang Bao, I heard that, when you first awakened, your ability was at the master level, and later it rose to the grand master level? Yang Bao nodded, yes. This matter is not a secret, and many people around Yangcheng know it. How did you do it? Chang Ning looked with admiration and confusion. How did you do it? Yang Bao also looked puzzled when she heard it. She raised her big eyes to look at the sky, thought for a long time, and replied, I don't know. This, okay, talent? Chang Ning complained in his heart. There was a black moon, it seemed to be 3 or 4 years after my first awakening. I can't remember clearly. One night when I was sleeping, I suddenly had the same symptoms as when I awakened. Then after waking up, I had an additional control ability, and the awakening level reached the Grand Master level. Yang Bao recalled and narrated, and she also had an incredible look on her face. Then it seems that you are very lucky? Chang Ning replied casually. My luck has always been good. You see, this time there is an army of lost ghosts passing by. I actually knew the news in advance, and there was also a strong reinforcement who rushed to deliver supplies. I also think I'm lucky. Yang Bao seemed to be in a good mood. Chang Ning looked at her versatile style speech and didn't want to talk to her much, just walked forward. After walking for more than an hour, the few people came to the small river where they came from. Go north along this stream, pass a muddy shoal, and you will find the boarding point. It will take about another 1 or 2 hours to get there. Chang Ning pointed out the location to Yang Bao. Yang Bao looked around the surrounding environment, secretly memorized it in his mind, and nodded. Okay. Then we will send people to Yancheng starting tomorrow. We'll wait for you in Yancheng. Chang Ning stretched out his hand and made a handshake gesture. Seeing this, Yang Bao also stretched out his hand and clapped his hands with Chang Ning. Okay. Then I'll take you here first and have a safe journey. Chang Ning retracted his hand, thinking that there might be no etiquette of shaking hands in the doomsday, so he nodded to Yang Bao and continued to set off along the river with Yun Xianzu and Yun Qian. Yang Bao watched them from the river until they entered the forest and then turned back to Yang Cheng. That craftsman named Chang Ning seems to be a very interesting person, Yang Bao thought to himself. And Chang Ning and his friends continued to set off along the riverbank they came from and arrived at the place where they got off the boat in the afternoon. The fishing boat that sent them yesterday, after going back to repair and replenish supplies, has returned here to wait. Yun Qian jumped up happily when she saw the big ship. She finally didn't have to carry that heavy baggage anymore. We are just staying outside for one night. Is it really necessary to bring so many things? She asked as she jumped and ran towards the big ship. This makes sense, but when they set out, the planned itinerary was to go to Yangcheng first and then to Lincheng. There might be other episodes in between. Who could have known that things would go so smoothly? So Chang Ning chose not to respond, but just walk towards the fishing boat on his own. The people on the fishing boat originally came here to wait in advance with the idea of not missing them, but they didn't expect that they really waited for them. But there was no way to set off back to Yuncheng at this point. If they left now, it would be dark before they arrived in Yuncheng, and the road was too dangerous. So everyone stayed on the boat for one night first. The boat was not big, and the three of them lived in a cabin, like they did in Yushan town before. Chang Ning and Yun Xianzu were still silent with each other, as if there was a tacit understanding between them. Only Yun Qian was still snoring carefree. The next morning, the fishing boat slowly started and headed towards the Yuncheng pier. When it was almost to Yuncheng, Chang Ning asked the boat to dock for a while. This stretch of riverbank should have been a yacht dock before the end of the world, and many abandoned and damaged yachts were piled up on the shore. These yachts were of different sizes. The larger ones were 30 or 40 meters long, larger than the fishery boats that Chang Ning had refreshed and repaired before. The smaller ones were only 5 or 6 meters long, like ordinary speedboats with a cabin added. Next, the plan to gather population will be implemented, and many surrounding towns will have to move to Yuncheng. The current number of ships is definitely not enough. In addition to Yangcheng and Lincheng, coastal towns such as Wencheng and Zhenhaicheng can also transfer population by water transportation, which is much safer and more convenient than marching on land. So Chang Ning plans to refresh a few more ships for the fishing team in Yuncheng. At least make full use of the existing water driving talents. After a few turns at the yacht dock, Chang Ning selected 4 yachts, all of which had large tonnage and reasonable cabin structures. It was estimated that each yacht could transport hundreds of people at a time. He calmed down and released his star power from his fingertips to refresh them one by one. After a while, 4 large yachts fell sideways on the riverside. Chang Ning jumped back on the boat and told the crew to find enough people to drive the 4 yachts away. Then he estimated that he still had about 2/3 of his star power. In other words, he could continue to refresh 8 similar yachts. However, there was no suitable abandoned ship nearby for a while, so he had to save it first and continue to drive towards Yuncheng. After getting off the boat, Chang Ning took Yun Qian to send Yun Xianzu back to Yuncheng first, and then took her to the Unravels expressway. What are you doing here? Yun Qian was very dissatisfied with Chang Ning's commanding her. Although she had eaten on the boat, Yuncheng had more food, didn't she? What else could be more enjoyable than lying in her own room in Yuncheng and eating canned food? But Chang Ning forced her to come, and she had no way to refuse, so she had to follow Chang Ning, walking towards Yaosin along the Unravels expressway that was about to be built. Are we going to Yaosin again? Yun Qian asked again. No, Chang Ning replied. He came here to investigate the homestead. With more and more people coming to Yuncheng, it is inevitable to establish a settlement outside the main city of Yuncheng. Since there is a ready-made Unravels expressway, it would of course be more convenient to build a residential area next to this road. Walking in the doomsday, Chang Ning lacked a sense of security as always, and habitually brought Yun Kai and Qian, the number one thug in Yancheng, with him. Less than a kilometer away, not far from Pujiang River, Chang Ning found a place, and his eyes lit up. Chapter 108 New Residential District. This place is not far from the main city of Yancheng. After the construction of the Unravels Expressway is completed, it will only take about 10 minutes to walk to reach it. On the left side of the road, there is a ruined building with only a few broken walls left, but it can be vaguely seen that it is a residential area. And it is a kind of low-rise residential building with 5 floors that was very common in the early 21st century. Chang Ning estimated that this was a building left over from the Great Divide. After human civilization got back on track, it encountered the end of the world before it had time to tear it down and rebuild it. The size of this building is very suitable for Chang Ning to refresh. Those huge residential buildings with dozens of floors are not enough to refresh a building at once with Chang Ning's current star power. If the building collapsed halfway through, it would be purely funny. This 5-story house is just right, and the architectural layout of this kind of house is generally good, very suitable for a family to live in. He continued to move forward, wanting to see how big this community is. After walking for another 10 minutes, the demarcation line of the construction of the Unravels Expressway appeared in front of him, and he saw Huandang, who was repairing the road. "Oh, you've already repaired here. It will be finished in 2 or 3 days, right?" Chang Ning greeted him from afar. Huandang was walking on the hot asphalt road under the scorching sun in the afternoon. Beads of sweat were dripping down his fat forehead. He was concentrating on the ground, where 2 white parallel lines were drawn. The middle of the parallel lines was where the road was to be repaired. On both sides of the parallel lines were sand, cement, gravel, asphalt and other ore materials that Yun Xianzu had decomposed. He tapped his fingers lightly, and following the faint starlight from his fingertips, a brand new asphalt road gradually took shape in front of him. After repairing about a meter of road, he took 2 steps forward and continued to repair the next section. Hearing Chang Ning greet him, Huandang hurriedly looked up and stopped the work in his hands. "Chang Jiangzang," he greeted with a flattering smile. Chang Ning also smiled at him and waved to call him over. "Chang Jiangzang, are you strolling? I will be done in 2 or 3 days." Huandang trotted all the way, panting. Chang Ning saw that he had become much darker and seemed to have lost weight, so he said to him, "It's really hard work, building such a long road by yourself." "It's not hard, it's not hard. I can do more work. I'm the most hard-working person in our Yancheng." "Oh, really? Then I won't be polite." Chang Ning took Huandang's greasy hand and pulled him to one of the residential buildings in the ruins of the roadside community. Huandang suddenly had a bad premonition. He widened his eyes and looked at Chang Ning. "Chang Jiangzang, what are you doing?" "It's like this. Our Yancheng is about to welcome a new group of people." Chang Ning told Huandang about the plan to unite the surrounding towns. Huandang nodded while listening, looking confused. "So, if so many people come, Yancheng will definitely not be able to accommodate them. We need to open up a new residential area outside." Chang Ning finished speaking and looked at Huandang. "New residential area?" Huandang seemed a little confused about this term. "Yes, just like this," Chang Ning said, stretching out his palm, releasing a large area of star power, and dots of starlight enveloped the ruins of the building in front of him. Then the bricks, stones, concrete, lime, and other raw materials in the building decomposed instantly and were refreshed into new raw materials. Bricks were piled up one by one, starting from the foundation, and added layer by layer. Concrete and steel bars were also gradually added in the process of brick covering. Some pipe gaps were left between the walls, and water pipes, wires, gas pipes were laid. After the main building was completed, the white walls and red tiles of the outer decoration were also installed little by little. In a few breaths, a 2-unit, 5-story residential building was completed. There are 4 households in each unit of this building, and there are 40 households in the whole building, which can accommodate 40 families. Of course, in the doomsday, there are not many family units. In the future, it is very likely that every house will become a collective dormitory that can accommodate 6 to 8 people. After Chang Ning refreshed this house, He closed his eyes and felt it. Half of his star power was used up again. In other words, if he is in the full magic state, he can refresh 3 such residential buildings a day. There are a total of 40 or 50 buildings in this community. If he rebuilds it alone, it will take about half a month. After it is built, the entire community can accommodate tens of thousands of people. He nodded and was quite satisfied with this. Then he turned to look at Huandang, who was confused. Did you understand it? Huandang stuttered. See, what did you understand? The structure of this building. What it looks like, how it needs to be built, and what materials are used for each part. These should be very clear from what I just showed you. Chang Ning said. See, I saw it, but I don't really understand it. Huandang continued to stutter. Chang Ning originally thought that, if Huandang helped, the process of rebuilding this community would be accelerated. After all, he is also a master awakener in the Department of Architecture. Seeing that the Unravels Expressway will be repaired in 2 or 3 days, Huandang can just come over to help build the house together. Seeing Huandang stuttering, Chang Ning couldn't help but agree with Zunlu's words. Maybe this person is really not very smart. However, although the structure of this house is simple, it is indeed a bit embarrassing to learn it after just one look. So he smiled and said to Huandang, it doesn't matter if you don't understand, let's try again. Then he turned around and walked to the ruins of another building. Using the same ability, he refreshed another building in a few minutes, and Chang Ning looked back at Huandang again. Huandang still looked like, who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I standing here? Chang Ning couldn't help shaking his head and said gently, it's okay, I will continue to come here to build a house tomorrow. You will continue to come and watch until you learn it. You are also a master awakener in our Yancheng. You don't want to just build roads for your whole life, right? Huandang lowered his head in shame, with tears in his eyes. I'm sorry. Chang Jiangzang. I'm so stupid. Young Kai and Qian laughed behind Chang Ning. Huandang said angrily, what are you laughing at? Young Kai and Qian stuck out a tongue. I just love to laugh. What's wrong? Huandang waved his fist and wanted to say something cruel, but then he thought about Young Kai and Qian's strength and decided to forget it. Chang Ning comforted Huandang a few more words and then surrounded the ruins of the community to observe. When someone moves in later, they will need electricity and water. He wants to see where to put the generator and water tower. He will call Zunlu over tomorrow to help arrange the water and electricity lines for the community. Since we are building it, we must build the best. Chang Ning can imagine a prosperous scene with bright lights here in the future. It should at least be similar to the small towns in China in the late 20th century, right? Today's star power is also used up. Chang Ning clapped his hands and called Yun Kai and Qian to go back to Yancheng together. Huandang, who doubted his IQ and ability, was left to continue building the Unravels Expressway. There are many things to do next, and we have to work hard every day. On the way back, Chang Ning secretly encouraged himself. Huh? What is that? As he was walking, he suddenly heard Yun Kai and Qian's surprised voice. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109, A Bowl of Rice Noodles. Chang Ning looked in the direction of Yun Kai and Qian's finger. There was a small tree on the side of the road. About 2 meters above the ground, a branch grew horizontally, and a vine was wrapped around the branch. There were many green long fruits on the vine, swaying in the wind, looking very tempting. Luffer? Chang Ning was delighted. In this era, most of the vegetables of the 21st century are no longer grown. He has been in this era for so long, and has only eaten some wild green leafy vegetables. Fruit vegetables like loofahs have never been eaten before. He walked over quickly and observed carefully. The loofahs on the vines were of different sizes. More than a dozen loofahs were obviously too old, and the silk inside had already taken shape, but 4 or 5 of them were just edible. He happily picked these 4 or 5 loofahs and put them in his bag. After thinking about it, he picked the oldest one and prepared to take it back for seeds. Seeing Chang Ning's happy expression, Yan Kai and Qian asked with longing, "What is this? Is it food?" Chang Ning nodded. "We'll cook it when we get back later." "Okay." Yan Kai and Qian jumped up. "Let's go." 2 hours later, a spoonful of hot oil was poured onto the century-old chili noodles found from the large warehouse on the 4th floor, emitting an alluring spicy aroma. Chang Ning didn't expect that this dry powdered seasoning would be well preserved, but all the wet seasonings, various sauces and the like were no longer edible. On the simple stove, the pot was steaming, and the long white strips of food inside were rolling with the boiling water. Next to the stove, there was a wok with a lid on. The things inside looked like they had been fried and were just waiting to be served. What a nice smell. Yan Kai and Qian pushed the door open. This is the small kitchen on the 21st floor. Since discovering the large warehouse on the 4th floor, Yan Kai and Qian, Chang Ning and Zunlu have installed a simple stove and cooking tools here. When a few people are free and don't want to go to the cafeteria on the 17th floor, they often come here to secretly cook and eat. After Chang Ning picked the loofah, he came to the small kitchen. First, he fried an egg with the loofah. Then he put the rice noodles into the pot and cooked them. Chang Ning asked Sister Zhu to make this rice noodles with the rice that had just been harvested. It was fresh, not the old rice noodles in the large warehouse on the 4th floor. Seeing Yan Kai and Qian come in again, Chang Ning turned around and said to her, "It's almost done. Find a plate to take out the dishes in the pot first. We can eat when the rice noodles are cooked." "Okay." Yan Kai and Qian happily washed her hands beside her. This was Chang Ning's request to her, that she must wash her hands before eating. Then she used a plate to take out the scrambled eggs with the loofah in the wok, and while doing so, she leaned in to smell it, and her saliva was almost dripping on it. Chang Ning also took out the rice noodles in the pot, put them in 2 bowls, and brought them to the table. Then he added a spoonful of oil-splashed chili to the rice noodles in front of him and stirred it. Looking at the rice noodles and fried egg with loofah mixed with oil and chili in front of him, Chang Ning's appetite was also excited. In the 21st century, he thought he had no special needs for food. Even if he stayed at home for a month and lived on instant noodles, he felt that he could live well. But after coming to this era, he realized that he was too naive. The reason why he had no desire for food before was that the food in the 21st century was too abundant and too simple. Even a simple bucket of instant noodles at that time was absolutely delicious at this time. At first, Chang Ning thought it was good to eat barbecue and grilled fish, but after eating it for several months, he missed the staple food and vegetables in the 21st century. Even though the food he had here was already the most advanced among all the humans in the end times, it was just a simple roast of various dry meats, without a variety of flavorful seasonings and chili peppers, and Chang Ning's mouth was about to be bland. The simple things in life were only understood when they were lost, and they turned out to be necessities. Now, Chang Ning found loofahs on the roadside, and the first wave of rice and yaosin has matured. Finally, after several months, Chang Ning can have a normal meal. He was so moved. Yan Kai and Qian on the opposite side also licked her lips, curiously watching the chili oil that Chang Ning added to the rice noodles, and also reached out to scoop up a large spoonful and put it in her own rice noodles. "Be careful of the spiciness," Chang Ning said while slurping his own rice noodles. The spoonful that Yan Kai and Qian scooped up was more than his own, and it was unknown whether she had ever eaten chili peppers. Before he finished speaking, Yan Kai and Qian stuck her tongue out of her mouth, fanned her hands and jumped up. "Na na 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 na," she shouted incoherently. Chang Ning did not laugh at her, but sped up his eating speed, and in an instant, the dish of loofah fried eggs between the two of them was half gone. Yan Kai and Qian quickly sat down again, and joined in the scramble. Neither of them spoke, and they quickly finished the dish together. Then they began to eat the rice noodles in their bowls. Yan Kai and Qian sucked her tongue. This taste, so spicy, but so refreshing. Chang Ning nodded. This is the simplest way to enhance the flavor in the 21st century, and countless people like it. He saw Yan Kai and Qian trying to wolf it down, but she was so spicy that she almost cried, and he couldn't help laughing. Thinking of the increase in population, the development of social division of labor, the prosperity of all walks of life, and the continuous emergence of delicious food and condiments, He laughed even happier. This meal was the happiest meal Chang Ning had eaten in the past few months. After the meal, Yan Kai and Qian took the remaining oil-splashed chili back to her room, and he didn't know what she was going to eat with it. Was she going to add it to the canned fruit she had stockpiled? Chang Ning felt a chill when he thought of this. Thinking about Yan Kai and Qian's obsession with food and her strange hobby, he had no doubt that she could do such a thing. Forget it, let's not think about it. Chang Ning rummaged around in the room and found the book A Brief History of the Great Schism that he found in the drawer of the warehouse manager's desk last time, and continued reading. In the next few days, Chang Ning's main actions were concentrated in the 3 points of Yancheng Wharf, and the newly built community. Every day, he consumed all his star power to refresh ships and residential buildings. After more than a week of exhausting work, his star power did not grow at all. Chang Ning began to believe what Zhen Yang said, awakening is innate and cannot be changed after birth. It seems that, if he wants to make progress and touch the threshold of transcendence, he must find an opportunity in the Black Moon. The only person he knows whose awakening ability has increased, Yang Bao, was promoted from a master to a grandmaster in a certain Black Moon. In addition to the refresh work these days, he also paid attention to finding some plants of vegetables and fruits in the old world on the road. Don't mention it, he really found 7 or 8 kinds of vegetables that seemed to have grown in some vegetable gardens in the past. After the world-destroying disaster, they became wild plants. Chang Ning carefully protected them and prepared to leave seeds for subsequent large-scale planting. While working hard day after day, collecting fruits and vegetables, making old world delicacies, attacking Yan Kai and Qian and Huandong, and teasing the little maid Su Panpan, new news came from the south. Chapter 110, Giant Fleet. In the past 10 days or so, Chang Ning had a very fulfilling life. He refreshed more than a dozen large boats for the fishing team in Yancheng, and built 30 or 40 houses in the new community. Finally, Huandong was almost done with his teaching. Huandong said that he could try to build a residential building according to the method of Changjiang sect. Of course, the premise is that Yan Xianzu can help to use the ability of decomposition to make some raw materials. Huandong obviously does not have Chang Ning's ability to refresh a house directly on the ruins. People from Lincheng, Yangcheng and surrounding towns also began to move in one after another. Under the leadership of Huan Qian, Ko Jinglang and other awakened people in the two cities, they are organizing formations for practice. Blacksmiths from several towns also gathered together to prepare weapons and equipment. Zunlu selected some elites and took them to make shotguns. In short, everything was on track. Facing the threat of the army of lost ghosts, tens of thousands of wasteland humans in the surrounding area united for the first time. At this time, Xiang Bao came back from the south. Originally, Chang Ning thought he would be away for at least a month, because so many cities and towns in the south needed him to run alone, and the range was actually quite large. I didn't expect him to come back in 10 days. There's trouble. Xiang Bao ran back to Yancheng breathlessly and started talking after finding Chang Ning and Yan Xianzu. Yan Xianzu and Chang Ning were entertaining Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian, who had just arrived in Yancheng. They were surprised to see Xiang Bao coming back. Chang Ning pulled him to sit down and poured him a glass of water. Why are you in such a hurry again? Take a breath first. There's no need to rush for anything. Xiang Bao nodded, drank the water, and then said, when Cheng is gone. Gone? You mean? Chang Ning had a bad feeling in his heart. Xiang Bao continued, I wanted to start from Wencheng first and sweep all the way north to the cities and towns in the south. But when I ran to Wencheng 5 days ago, I saw something wrong from a distance. The original sentry posts and the people outside the city were gone. So I went up to check and found that almost all the people in the city were dead. There may be survivors, but they are definitely not in Wencheng. I don't know where they ran to. Did the crazy ghost do it? Yan Xianzu said beside him. Xiang Bao nodded. It should be, otherwise no one can massacre a city at once, right? Chang Ning then asked, when did it happen? When I arrived, the bodies inside were already cold, but they still looked fresh, and some blood had not yet completely solidified. I guess it happened a day or two before I arrived. Chang Ning frowned and estimated that the last time Xiao Bao brought back the news of the Lost Heart Ghost Army, it was said that the thousands of Lost Heart Ghosts were still 100 miles south of Wencheng. It has been less than a month, and Wencheng has been killed. It seems that this group of Lost Heart Ghosts move very fast. They are not wandering around randomly, but moving with a purpose and direction. Then, in about half a month, they will most likely reach Zhenhe City. In about a month, the Lost Heart Ghost Army will be near Yancheng. Damn. In this case, Zhenhe City and other towns in the south will not have time to move. Their speed of transfer may not be as fast as the movement of the Lost Heart Ghost Army, and they will soon be caught up halfway. Even if they arrived in Yancheng before the arrival of the Lost Heart Ghost, the time was very tight. This group of people had no time to train, and could not cooperate well with the people around Yancheng. Should they give up the people in the south? Xiao Bao continued, I was afraid that I would not have enough time to notify the negotiations in the south, so I went directly to Zhenhe City first. After a brief communication with the people there, I hurried back. You need to come up with a principle for this. What do the people in Zhenhe City say? Chang Ning asked. They do want to move to Yancheng collectively, but they are also afraid that they will not have enough time. If they are caught up by the Lost Heart Ghost halfway, it is better to encounter them in Zhenhe City. At least there are city walls for defense, so they will not be slaughtered by the Lost Heart Ghost in the wild. Chang Ning paced back and forth in the room for a while, and suddenly stopped, and said to Yan Xianzu, now, if you don't want to give up the people in the south, there is only one way. What way? Yan Xianzu, Xiang Bao, Yang Bao, and Lin Yuqian all looked at Chang Ning curiously. We can only form a fleet and go over by sea to pick up people from Zhenhe City and nearby areas. This way, the round trip will not take more than 5 days, so we should be able to make it in time. The fleet goes out to sea. Yan Xianzu was surprised. Yancheng had its own fishing team before, and had experience in fishing near the mouth of the river. But that was only a small area at the mouth of the river, and the actual controller of the fleet at that time was Yan Xianzu's father Yan Yi, who was an awakened person of the navigator system, and had special abilities to control ships. Now that Yan Yi is gone, it is undoubtedly a fantasy to let Jia Yao take the fleet out to sea on a long distance route. Even places that Yan Yi has not been to, it is even more impossible for the people in the fleet to reach now. Yan Xianzu thought for a moment and continued, it's okay for the fleet to sail in the river now, but it's too dangerous to go out to sea. The evil beasts in the sea are not comparable to those in the river. Moreover, they have no experience of going far away. They basically go back and forth on the same day every time they sail. The last time they sent us to Yancheng, it was the farthest place the fleet has been to. Chang Ning shook his head, but if not, we will have to give up all the humans in the south. There are tens of thousands of people. Even if they can't help us resist the crazy ghosts, we can't watch them die in vain at the hands of the crazy ghosts. Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian were both stunned to watch the conversation between the two people. They had no experience in sailing and going out to sea. Yan Xianzu gritted his teeth and said, I know, but this is too dangerous. If things go wrong, we won't be able to save the people, but the fleet will also be involved. The evil beasts are mostly active at night, and the fleet only sails during the day. Then we will follow the fleet with a few more masters. Chang Ning continued to persuade, and when he said this, he glanced at Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian. Yang Bao hesitated for a moment. If you need me, I can follow. After all, it was the safety of tens of thousands of people, and she couldn't turn a blind eye. Lin Yuqian also nodded. Me too. Chang Ning clapped his hands. Look, City Lord Yang, City Lord Lin, plus Qian Qian and I, 4 Grandmaster level awakeners, will be there, and we can dismantle a few psychic cannons, and install them on the ship as weapons. In fact, the danger is not that great. Our route is along the coast all the way south, and we won't get lost. Yan Xianzu finally nodded, but our fleet is not big enough to pick up so many people at once. Yes, we will quickly expand the fleet in the next 1 or 2 days. The most important thing is to have a flagship. Chang Ning's eyes were bright. During this period of time, many skilled pilots have been trained in the fleet of Yancheng. Now the fleet has more than 20 ships of 500 to 2,000 tons, and even if they are fully loaded, they can't carry 5,000 people. So Chang Ning needs to refresh a flagship for the fleet of Yuncheng, a large ship that can carry thousands of people. He had already preliminarily selected the flagship in his previous inspection. Chapter 111. 10,000 ton ship. 10,000 ton ship. Chang Ning wants to challenge the Sarge's task. Chang Ning has calculated before that his star power can handle more than 10,000 ton ships a day. Then according to the proportion, it is enough for a 10,000 ton ship. What's more, the materials used and the weight of the hull of a 10,000 ton ship are definitely lower than those of 10,000 ton ships. In the 21st century when Chang Ning lives, Shanghai is an important port city. Pujiang, Dajiang and the new port in the southeast corner of Shanghai have countless ships of more than 10,000 tons entering and leaving the port every day, and even giant ships of 100,000 tons and hundreds of thousands of tons are not uncommon. This time the task is to pick up people, so Chang Ning has to refresh a 10,000 ton passenger ship. Although cargo ships can also carry people, the conditions are too poor. If they encounter an accident and are delayed at sea for a few days before returning to Yuncheng, Chang Ning is afraid that a large number of people will die on the way. There were multiple ports in Shanghai before the end of the world. The port used by the current Yuncheng fleet is on the bank of the Dajiang River, about 2 or 3 kilometers away from the mouth of the Pujiang River. The ship that Chang Ning had his eyes on was at the intersection of the Pujiang River, the Dajiang River and the sea. In the 21st century, it was called Wusankao. It was once an important waterway in the old world. Later, after the new port in the southeast of Shanghai was built, it gradually changed from mainly cargo transportation to mainly passenger transportation. In the 21st century, a large cruise ship terminal has been built here. Chang Ning had visited along the Pujiang River and the Dajiang River a few days ago, and found that it was also a prosperous passenger terminal before the doomsday disaster in the 24th century. The wreckage of huge 10,000 ton and 100,000 ton luxury cruise ships is scattered throughout Wusankao. The port has not been renovated for a long time. Most of the ships are stranded in the silt, and some have sunk to the bottom of the water. But there are still a few giant ships that are still stubbornly floating on the sea after more than 300 years. Although they are crooked, tilted, severely weathered, and half of the cabins are flooded, they are still very useful. It is difficult for ordinary mountain movers to shake a 10,000 ton ship. If we still repair and refresh on the shore like the 1,000 ton ship, and then let the mountain mover awaken and drag it into the water, it may be difficult to achieve. So we can only put the refresh process in the water. And the ship that sinks to the bottom of the water is obviously not a good choice. The ship that is too close to the port area is not a good choice either. In the past 300 years, God knows how many sunken ships have accumulated underwater in the port area. When the ship that has just been refreshed hits the reef, before it has sailed a few meters away, it will not be fun. At this time, those ships that are slightly away from the port area on the sea, although broken, but still stubbornly floating, are extremely precious. After discussing countermeasures with Yun Xianzu and others, Chang Ning called Xiao, the captain of the Yuncheng fleet, and rushed to the Yuncheng dock together. At the dock, they took a 1,000-ton patrol boat and loaded enough crew members, and then drove to the location of Wusankao in the old world. In fact, the general fleet of Yuncheng does not approach here. As one of the most prosperous docks in the old world, there are too many sunken ships in Wusankao. Driving in this area, if you are not careful, you will hit an unknown object under the water. The hull will be damaged at the least, and it will sink on the spot at the worst. So the crew members who followed this time are all elites, old sailors who have been working in the ship driving position since the Yunai era. Carefully avoiding the wreckage of several giant ships, the patrol boat drove to the wide river surface of Wusankao. In front of it was floating a white giant ship with a length of about 150 meters, a width of more than 40 meters, and 7 decks. The words President Number 10 can be vaguely seen on the broken hull. It looks like a luxury cruise ship in the old world. The ship is half tilted, and the deck on one side is almost touching the water. If it continues to stay here, it will probably sink completely in a few decades like its predecessors under the water. But Chang Ning is here. The patrol boat stopped about 50 meters away from the ship. Xiao turned his head and looked at Chang Ning. "Is it okay here?" Chang Ning nodded. "I'll try." He used his awakening ability before to release less than a quarter of the star power at a time. He has never used it at full strength. He stared at the ship in front of him, mobilizing all his strength. A majestic star power surged directly from Chang Ning's mind, and the people around him only saw a bright starlight extending from Chang Ning's eyes. Although it was daytime, the starlight was still extremely clear. The huge starlight flew across the sea surface for dozens of meters and enveloped the cruise ship. Chang Ning could feel a sense of heaviness, like the feeling of lifting hundreds of pounds of weight. In his mind, the internal conditions and structure of the ship were presented very clearly. "Refresh for me." Chang Ning suddenly opened his eyes wide and shouted, "Get up." The whole ship was dripping with water and floated out of thin air from the water. As the giant ship left the water, the nearby water surface shook violently, causing the 1,000-ton patrol boat, where everyone was also shaking. Chang Ning was unmoved and continued to exert his awakening power with all his strength. The giant ship in the air was disassembled like a building block, and countless river water, aquatic plants, shellfish, and small fish and shrimps fell directly from the air into the water. Countless disassembled parts automatically refreshed in midair, becoming brand new components, and then quickly assembled out of thin air. After a few breaths, wow! With a violent noise, the brand new giant ship fell into the water. The nearby water surface shook violently, like a tsunami, with the giant ship as the center spreading out in all directions. "Hold steady," Xiao shouted. The 1,000-ton patrol boat was like a little child next to the 10,000-ton ship, and was almost overturned by the unconscious entry of the giant ship into the water. Suddenly, a gust of wind hung on the water, sweeping in from the opposite direction of the huge waves. The strong wind against the huge waves made the waves much smaller and also helped to stabilize the hull. Chang Ning looked up and saw Xiao gritting her teeth and pinching her fingers, obviously releasing her star power. He suddenly thought that this girl's awakening ability seemed to be weather wall lock, and he had never seen her use it. Now it looks pretty cool, second only to the ability of Yang Bao's magician. With the help of Xiao's awakened ability, the ship finally stabilized. After another 10 minutes, the huge waves on the water gradually subsided, and everyone finally set their sights on the brand new 10,000-ton ship. "She's so beautiful." Xiao looked at the 10,000-ton cruise ship with a dazed look. This ship does look good after being refreshed. After all, it was a ship dedicated to receiving tourists before the end of the world. Chang Ning felt that he had consumed most of his star power. Fortunately, he was not exhausted or weak, so he smiled at Xiao and said, "This will be the flagship of Yunqing in the future. Let's go up and take a look." "Okay." Xiao hurriedly directed the crew to approach the big ship and turned to Chang Ning and said, "What should we call this ship?" Chapter 112 Setting Sail. "Why not call it Yunqing?" Chang Ning said without much creativity. In the 21st century, many ships were named after places, such as the several aircraft carriers of the rabbit family. Of course, Chang Ning did not regard this ship as important as an aircraft carrier, but was simply too lazy to name it. If this ship is called Yunqing, then in the future, there will be such large ships, which can be called Yangqing, Linqing, Qiantang. In short, there are so many names that can be used endlessly. What do you think? Chang Ning asked the captain of the fleet, Xiao, for his opinion. Unexpectedly, Xiao also nodded. "Okay, I think it's good." When the patrol boat was about to approach the 10,000-ton cruise ship, the name of the ship was decided. A gust of wind awakened rushed up from the patrol boat, jumped to the side of the Yunqing, stepped on the side of the ship diagonally, and flipped onto the deck of the Yunqing. Then a soft gangway was thrown down. Most of the crew members on the patrol boat climbed up the gangway to the Yunqing with Chang Ning and Xiao. Compared with the patrol boat next to her, the Yunqing was an absolute behemoth. In the Yunai era, the crew of Yunqing had only driven small boats of more than 10 or 20 meters, most of which were powered by wooden sails. Chang Ning only drove a river patrol boat of about 1,000 tons after she came to Yunqing. As for this kind of 10,000-ton giant ship, let alone driving it, most people have never even thought that they would stand on such a ship one day. Everyone stood on the deck and walked back and forth like sleepwalking, touching here and there. This is a luxury cruise ship for tourism. The decoration materials are all top notch. It is also considered a luxury in the 21st century where Chang Ning lives, not to mention in the Doomsday Wasteland era. Chang Ning smiled at their appearance and looked up to carefully examine the ship. The deck of the Yuncheng is not large, only about 400 or 500 square meters. The main space is used to build cabins. There are 7 floors above the deck, and there are probably 2 to 3 floors below the deck. Chang Ning came to the cabin through the door on the deck. The first floor was a huge banquet hall with hundreds of dining tables and a large stage at the end, probably for guests to dine and watch performances. He walked up the stairs to the second floor, where there were many small restaurant boxes and several large and small meeting rooms. On the third floor, there was the cockpit and many equipment platforms, as well as many places that looked like crew lounges. The 4th to 7th floors were all guest rooms, with ordinary standard rooms and quite luxurious suites. Chang Ning roughly counted, and there were a total of 200 or 300 rooms. If it was used for transportation tasks, it would definitely not be like 2 people in a room like serious passengers. It is estimated that more than 10 people could be stuffed into a room, and then the crew lounge, restaurant box, karaoke room and other entertainment facilities would also be stuffed into a room with 7 or 8 people. Even the lobby on the first floor could accommodate hundreds of people. There was high-end carpet there, and the touch of lying down should be much better than the beds of most people in this era. With this calculation, this cruise ship, which originally had a load capacity of less than 1,000 people, should be able to fit more than 5,000 people without any problem. If you are a bit more ruthless, you can even fit tens of thousands of people. I don't know how big Zhenhe City is. If it is similar to Yuncheng, this ship can complete the transportation task. Even if the surrounding towns are included, this flagship plus the existing 20,000-ton ships are enough. After a circle on the upper deck, Chang Ning walked down the stairs to the lower level. There are 3 floors below. The bottom is the engine room and various equipment space. The second to last floor is mainly used as a warehouse. Chang Ning also found a super large cold storage here. The underground floor is some entertainment facilities such as bars and billiard rooms, as well as shopping facilities such as shops and snack streets. In general, the equipment of this ship is very complete. If there are enough supplies, it can even be used as a small city on the sea. It is no problem for thousands of people to live a relatively comfortable life. Chang Ning visited the entire Yuncheng. The crew brought by Xiao had already refueled the ship, did some basic maintenance, and gathered in the cockpit on the 3rd floor. How is it? Can it be driven? Chang Ning also leaned over to take a look. It's not a big problem. The driving equipment here is even simpler than the ship you built for us before. Many things are very automated, and there are no complicated instruments to observe. This way our people can easily get started. But the disadvantage is that it can't be operated very finely. Of course, there is no problem sailing in the river, but I'm afraid it won't be enough when entering the sea. Chang Ning nodded. In fact, judging from the size and appearance of this ship, it should have been a cruise ship dedicated to sailing in the river before the end of the world. Chang Ning had heard of this kind of cruise ship on the river in the 21st century. It often carried some sunset red tour groups and stopped next to the city. A river went from Shanghai to the mountain city for more than 10 days, and there were shopping spots along the way. This kind of ship must be more friendly in driving. It is impossible for a tour group to invite a very professional master to drive the boat, but it certainly won't have strong control ability. After all, it's just slowly wandering in the river and doesn't need to face a complex environment. What Xiao said is alright. However, there is no better alternative so far. If you sail in the near sea, the weather is fine, and you operate during the day, there will not be a big problem. In the future, if there is a better alternative, Chang Ning will consider replacing Yuncheng with a flagship. Now the situation is urgent, the sooner the better, so we can only use this one first. Xiao and several crew members slowly started the Yuncheng. The speed was actually okay, and it was almost the same as those 1,000-ton patrol boats. However, they did not dare to dock the ship. Without a suitable dock, built with modern technology, this 10,000-ton ship would most likely run aground when docked. So everyone got off the Yuncheng to the patrol boat and returned to the shore. Then everyone went their separate ways. Xiao took the crew to replenish the sailing supplies, and Chang Ning returned to Yuncheng to meet up with the masters, who were going to set off with the ship. With Yun Qian Qian, Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian, they dismantled 3 psychic cannons and led more than a dozen other high-level and master-level awakeners with strong combat effectiveness in several cities. Chang Ning and his party came to the Yuncheng dock again. Xiao told Chang Ning that the fuel and supplies on the ship had not been replenished yet, and it would probably take until dusk to meet the standard for sailing. After dark, it is impossible to sail, so it is estimated that we can only set off early tomorrow morning. Chang Ning nodded to show his understanding, and then turned to everyone and said, since we are leaving early tomorrow morning, why don't we stay on the boat tonight? Live on the boat? Yang Bao frowned. The boats in her impression were those fishing boats in Yangcheng Lake. Let her stay overnight in that kind of boat. Although she was embarrassed to say it, her expression was obviously resisting. The other few people did not look excited. Chang Ning sighed. That was the configuration of a luxury hotel before the end of the world. You country bumpkins, you will know after seeing it. So without explaining, he went to the patrol boat for the ferry. Everyone had no choice but to follow him on the boat. When they saw the Yuncheng from a distance, all the awakened people who participated in this operation opened their mouths wide. How could there be such a magnificent ship in this world? After really stepping on the Yuncheng, they were surprised by the luxurious decoration and equipment in the boat. There are 4 presidential suites on the top floor, 1 for each of us. Chang Ning walked towards the elevator very familiarly. After adding fuel, the ship's electrical system started to function. Presidential Suite. What is that? Chapter 113 Presidential Suite. What is this iron box? Young Qian Qian followed Chang Ning into the elevator, curiously touched the elevator wall, and asked, elevator? Chang Ning answered briefly. Young Qian Qian's impression of the elevator was a wooden cage like the one in Yuncheng, with a hemp rope on top, pulled by manpower or a diesel engine. She had never thought that an iron box could be used as an elevator. Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian thought that the wooden elevator in Yuncheng was already magical enough. They had taken it once before, and when they went up, they saw a big machine making a rumbling sound pulling it, and they were amazed at the time. This iron box elevator looked even more magical. There were bright lights inside, and a cool breeze blew out from it. After everyone entered the elevator together, Chang Ning pressed the 7th floor, and the elevator door slowly closed, and began to rise. Feeling the lift, Yang Bao subconsciously leaned against the wall, and clenched the handrail on the side wall of the elevator. Young Qian Qian jumped in the elevator, like a silly frog. A few seconds later, the elevator stopped. Ding dong. The elevator door opened, and the outside presented a completely different scene from when they got on the elevator. Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian both widened their eyes. Outside the elevator was a corridor. Everyone walked out and looked out the window. As expected, they had left the deck very high and arrived at the 7th floor. Lin Yuqian and Yang Bao looked at each other in amazement. Chang Ning led the 3 people inside, turned a corner, and came to the door of room 766, which was the first of the 4 presidential suites. He opened the door and went in, turning on the lights in the room. Wow. Young Qian Qian and Yang Bao shouted at the same time, and Lin Yuqian also opened his mouth wide. Although he didn't make a sound, he couldn't suppress the surprise on his face. Whether it was Yuncheng, Yangcheng, or Lincheng, there had never been such a luxurious residence. In this doomsday wasteland, even if you searched all over the world, it would be difficult to find a room that met the standards of a 5-star presidential suite. The 3 people were shocked by the decoration in the room for a while, and stood at the door without daring to come in. Come on. Chang Ning turned around and called them. Who lives in this room? Me. Young Qian Qian raised her hand. Chang Ning nodded. I'll show you how to use the things here. As he said that, he opened all the doors in the room. This is a suite with 1 bedroom, 1 living room and 1 bathroom, which is only about 70 or 80 square meters, much smaller than the presidential suite in an ordinary hotel, which is equivalent to the area of an ordinary business suite. But the decoration is up to standard, and the standard is very high. After all, on a ship, where every inch of land is valuable, it is difficult to use the same presidential suite area standard as on land. Here is the light switch. Chang Ning demonstrated the switch on and off the light at the control console at the door. Here is the air conditioning switch, which can control the temperature in the room. After demonstrating the light, he taught them how to use the air conditioner. Then Chang Ning went into the bathroom and demonstrated to the 3 people how to use the toilet, as well as the shower and basin, and how to control the cold and hot water. Chang Ning, is this a house for gods to live in? Yang Bao was more and more surprised as he listened. Automatic switch, soft lighting, controllable indoor temperature, exquisite toilet and washing area, automatic hot and cold water, soft big bed, comfortable sofa. Even the most enjoyable people in the doomsday can't imagine such a living environment. Hey, this is where people can often live before the doomsday. After Chang Ning introduced how to open and close the automatic curtains, he said to Yang Bao, our productivity will increase in the future, and we will often live in such places. Yang Bao nodded, obviously not understanding what productivity is, but still with an incredible look on his face. Have you all learned it? Chang Ning asked the 3 of them. They are all very simple things. For the 3 awakeners, they will know it after listening once, and there is no need to learn it specially. Seeing the 3 people nodding, Chang Ning asked Yan Kai and Qian to stay here, and then took Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian into the other 2 suites to settle down. After a short rest, he taught the 3 people how to use the elevator, and took them to the restaurant on the 1st floor for dinner. After dinner, the 3 of them stayed in the luxurious suite, and couldn't fall asleep for a long time. The dozen combat awakeners they brought with them also tossed, and turned in their own business rooms. As a result, a group of awakeners did not get a good rest all night. There is no way. People suddenly changed to a very comfortable rest environment, but they will not sleep well. But Chang Ning slept soundly. He hadn't slept in such a comfortable bed for a long time. He made an exception and slept until noon. When he woke up, the fleet had already set off. Chang Ning simply washed up and went to the cockpit on the 3rd floor. From the direction of the sun and the coastline not far away, it can be seen that the fleet has sailed out of the estuary of the river and is now sailing south along the coastline. Chang Jiangzang. Seeing Chang Ning come in, Jia Yao and others greeted him one after another. Chang Ning nodded to them and then asked, have all the supplies been replenished? Have the psychic cannons been installed? Jia Yao gave the main driving seat to a subordinate next to him, then stood up and walked to Chang Ning. Everything is ready. 3 days of food and water for 10,000 people are piled in the warehouse below. 1 psychic cannon is installed at the bow, 1 is installed at the stern, and the other is on the 7th floor rooftop. It is not fixed and can be adjusted according to the actual situation of the battle. Chang Ning smiled and said, thank you for your hard work. Jia Yao was in high spirits, with the Yuncheng to drive. What's the point of hard work? As he said that, he stroked the wall of the cockpit, as gently as stroking his little lover. Huh. Brothers Ironing, are you awake? The door of the cockpit was pushed open again, and Yan Kai and Qian jumped in. How was your rest? Chang Ning asked. Not bad. I want to discuss something with you. Yan Kai and Qian hesitated. What's the matter? Chang Ning stared at the direction where the fleet was moving and asked casually, can you give me the room I slept in last night? I don't want the house in Yuncheng anymore. I want to live here in the future. Yan Kai and Qian twisted her body and said. Chang Ning chuckled. You should ask our Yuncheng fleet captain, Jia Yao, the captain of the Yuncheng flagship. Why are you asking me? Yan Kai and Qian stared at Jia Yao with expectation. Jia Yao shook her head and smiled. Whatever you want, just come and live here, as long as you like. The place is so big anyway. However, you live on the Yuncheng, so you have to do any work and you have to show up when there is a need to fight. No problem, no problem. Yan Kai and Qian agreed hurriedly, and then went out happily. It seemed that she was going downstairs, and it was unknown whether she was going to the restaurant or the food storage room. As soon as Yan Kai and Qian left, Lin Yuqian appeared at the door of the cockpit again. Chang Jiangzang. Lin Yuqian did not enter the door, but called softly at the door. What's wrong? Chang Ning turned around and saw that it was Lin Yuqian, so he walked over and asked. Lin Yuqian also hesitated. Chang Ning was puzzled. Could it be that this old guy also wanted to reserve a long private room on the Yuncheng? Can you come over and help me take a look? Lin Yuqian asked shyly, with a blush on his thin old face. What are you looking at? Chang Ning was even more puzzled. Come, you'll know when you come. Lin Yuqian did not answer, but turned and left. Chang Ning had no choice but to follow him. Chapter 114 Paid Program. What's the matter? Chang Ning followed Lin Yuqian and took the elevator to the 7th floor. Lin Yuqian did not speak until he entered Lin Yuqian's room. He finally couldn't help asking. Lin Yuqian hesitated, walked to the TV in the living room, and turned on the TV with the remote control. Chang Ning was surprised. He didn't teach them how to use the TV yesterday, but Lin Yuqian actually figured out how to use it. The reason why he didn't teach was that Chang Ning felt that there would be no TV programs in this doomsday. All TV stations had already stopped operating 300 years ago with the doomsday disaster. Who would have thought that after Lin Yuqian turned on the TV showed a picture. This is something like a video on demand system. Chang Ning suddenly realized that it seemed that there was a video server on this ship, and the TV in the guest room could play the video on the server through the video on demand system. In this way, even if there is no TV signal, the TV in the guest room can be used. Didn't Lin Yuqian already figure out how to use the TV? Why did he call him over? Chang Ning was puzzled again, and he turned to look at Lin Yuqian. Lin Yuqian's face flushed red, and he pressed a few times on the remote control. The TV immediately entered a video on demand channel, late night paid programs. Chang Ning suddenly realized. Lin Yuqian pointed to the TV. Why can't I open the things in here? On the TV screen, there is a small gray lock on the videos to be on demand. When Lin Yuqian clicks to play, a line of words will pop up. Please contact the service desk to purchase the program. Most of the videos to be on demand have some revealing girls on the cover, and some even have a bunch of disheveled people on the cover. Chang Ning showed an expression of I understand, and smiled at Lin Yuqian. This is easy to do, wait for me for a while. After that, he turned around and went out to take the elevator to the 3rd floor, found the server control room, and changed all the video content on the server to free on demand. Then he returned to Lin Yuqian's room. Okay. After that, he turned around and was about to go out, but Lin Yuqian called him from behind. Chang Jiangzang. Chang Ning stopped at the door and looked back. He didn't like watching some small videos with an unfamiliar old man. What's wrong? When will we arrive at our destination? Lin Yuqian asked. Chang Ning thought back to what he saw in the cockpit just now. The ship was sailing at a speed of about 23 knots, which is about 40 kilometers per hour. To get to Zhenhe City, it would take at least 200 kilometers, right? It would definitely take more than 5 hours. So he replied, probably in the afternoon. It's not certain yet, but we should be there before dark at the latest. Lin Yuqian nodded and smiled, and stopped talking. Chang Ning turned and went out, closed the door for him, and shook his head and smiled. When he turned to look at the corridor, he found that the direction of the sun was not right. What's going on? Just on the 7th floor, he ran a few steps to the stairs leading to the cabin rooftop, stood on the rooftop and looked around. Now the shore is on the right side of the sailing direction, but the sun is on the left and rear of the sailing direction. It is now a little after 9 in the morning and less than 10 o'clock. In other words, the ship is sailing westward. Chang Ning slapped his forehead and forgot about it. So he quickly ran to the cockpit on the 3rd floor. Chang Jiangzang. Xiao was very happy to see Chang Ning coming back. She quickly stood up from her beloved driving seat and walked to Chang Ning. Chang Ning did not say anything polite to her, but said directly, turn around, turn left. Why? The coast is on the right. Aren't we supposed to sail along the coastline? Otherwise, we are likely to get lost. We have no experience or sea charts at sea. Chang Ning was very firm. Turn left first, I will tell you slowly. Although Xiao did not understand the reason, out of trust in Chang Ning, he still obediently asked the helmsman to turn left and sail towards the south. Chang Ning then said to Xiao, it's like this. He found a few chopsticks and boxes nearby and simply placed a pattern on the table. This is Yuncheng, this is Zhenhe. Our route is like this. Chang Ning, who had lived in the 21st century, knew that the north of Shanghai was the estuary of the Yangtze River, and the south was the estuary of Kianjiang River. The estuary of Kianjiang River is much wider than the estuary of the Yangtze River. The widest part is more than 100 kilometers, forming the famous Qiantang Bay. The tide rises every full moon, which is the famous Qianjiang tide. If the fleet continues to sail along the coast, it will go west and reach Qianjiang City after about 200 kilometers. This is completely different from Zhenhe City. Therefore, in this section of Qianjiang, you cannot sail along the coast. You must leave the coast and go directly south. Chang Ning explained in detail, and Xiao suddenly realized it after listening. However, she immediately asked a new question. If you don't go along the coastline and cross the sea directly to the south, do you have to pass through the deep water area? What kind of evil beasts are there in the deep water area, and what are their habits? We don't know anything about them. The fleet of Yunqing has been operating in the big river and a small shallow water area at the mouth of the big river. They really have no information about what is in the deep sea outside. Chang Ning was not worried at all. I'm so anxious to turn the ship. In fact, there is another reason. That is, the water in Qianjiang Bay is very shallow. He traveled near the big river in Qianjiang in the 21st century. He remembered that there were many 10,000-ton giant ships in the area where the big river estuary entered the sea, but in the area where the Qianjiang River estuary entered the sea, even 1,000-ton ships were rarely seen, and most of the ships on the water were flat-bottomed sand ships. Later, he went to check the information specifically, and it turned out that the water depth in Qianjiang Bay was very shallow, and the average depth in most areas was only 8 to 10 meters at low tide. No big ship dared to sail in such a deep water. So Chang Ning just called a halt in a hurry, and he should reach the shallow water area if he went a little further. The water depth conditions at the outermost horn of Qianjiang Bay were okay, and the Yunqing could pass normally. But this water depth condition was okay, and it was just okay. At most it was about the same as the water depth near the big river estuary. In fact, the entire Yellow Sea belongs to the continental shelf, and the water depth does not exceed 200 meters. So the deep sea beasts that Xiao was worried about should not appear in this area. After popularizing geographical knowledge to Xiao, Chang Ning stretched and returned to his suite on the 7th floor. Xiao watched Chang Ning leave the cab with a dazed look in his eyes. He didn't know whether he was digesting geographical knowledge or thinking about something else. After returning to his suite, Chang Ning lay down on the sofa and nestled comfortably in it. Then he looked at the remote control at hand. Lin Yuqian is watching the pay channel. Should I watch it too? Such a thought popped up in his mind. No, I'm a positive and good young man. Another voice sounded in his mind. Chang Ning's hand had already picked up the remote control, turned on the TV, and flipped through the selection interface. Otherwise, let's watch some nostalgic movies in the 23rd century. He had read the book History of the Development of Film in the 23rd century before, and he was quite interested in the introduction of some of the films in it. His fingers pressed up and down, and when he was flipping back and forth between nostalgic movies and paid on demand, his door was knocked. Chang Jiangzang, are you there? Yang Bao's crisp girlish voice came from outside. Yes. Chang Ning stood up nervously, but his fingers accidentally pressed the pay on demand channel. Chapter 115 Explosives Depot. The TV screen immediately showed the videos that he had seen in Lin Yuqian's room. Chang Ning blushed. He quickly pressed the remote control to turn off the TV, then got up to open the door. Yang Bao looked like he had just taken a shower and changed his clothes. He stood at the door clean and refreshed. Come in. Chang Ning stepped aside to open the door. Did I disturb your rest? Yang Bao asked Chang Ning as he walked in. Chang Ning smiled awkwardly. No, Lord Yang, please sit down. Yang Bao didn't notice Chang Ning's abnormality. He sat down on the sofa and just sat on the remote control that Chang Ning had thrown away. What is this? Yang Bao curiously took the remote control out from under her butt. She vaguely felt that she had seen this thing in her room, but she didn't know what it was. Nothing. Chang Ning quickly grabbed it and put it on the TV cabinet. Lord Yang, what's the matter with you coming here this time? Chang Ning also sat on the sofa and smiled awkwardly at Yang Bao. Although it was still very unnatural, it was much better. Yang Bao sat up straight. It's like this. There is a piece of information that I think I need to share with Chang Jiangzhang. What information? The information that Yang Bao attaches so much importance to should not be a trivial matter. Chang Ning also sat up straight and waited for Yang Bao to speak. There is a cave in the south of our Yangcheng. Yangcheng covers a large area, larger than several large cities such as Yancheng and Lincheng. Because when Yangcheng was first established, it was a city built by combining dozens of surrounding towns, emptying the people, and centrally building a city. Therefore, Yangcheng almost monopolizes a large area equivalent to the total area of Shanghai before the end of the world. The surrounding environmental resources and old world materials are all firmly controlled by Yangcheng. About 50 kilometers south of Yangcheng, which is also the edge of the southern radiation of Yangcheng, Yang Bao discovered a cave. It is called a cave, but Chang Ning actually heard that it should be a man-made tunnel, similar to the kind of man-made air-defined cave they rested on the road when they went to Yangcheng last time. Once, Yang Bao chased a lost ghost to that cave and rushed in to kill it. Like the lost heart ghost Chang Ning saw last time, this lost heart ghost also made his home in a room in the tunnel. After killing this lost heart ghost, Yang Bao explored the tunnel and found a room deep in the tunnel, filled with some black powder particles. Her awakening ability reminded her that it was full of elemental power as violent as her thunder element. So she brought a bag of black particles back to Yangcheng and found that this thing would burn violently when it met a spark, and it would explode when there were too many of them together. After exchanging knowledge with the old people in Yangcheng, they all agreed that this thing should be the legendary explosives left before the doomsday disaster. Explosives? Chang Ning's eyes lit up. This thing is a powerful weapon against the army of lost heart ghosts. Imagine, under the road that the lost heart ghost army must pass through to attack the city, a pile of explosives are ambushed, and when they pass by, they are detonated together. This lethality is definitely much stronger than ordinary people's handheld weapons, and it may also be more effective than the attacks of most awakened people. The notebook computer that Chang Ning brought before had the formula and production method of homemade explosives, and Zun Lu also learned it. However, there are not so many raw materials for making explosives, and it is easy to explode during the production process, which is very unsafe. If there is a batch of ready-made explosives left in the old world, it would be much more convenient to use them directly. If it is really a batch of explosives, it will be really helpful for us to defend against the attack of the lost heart ghost. Chang Ning said to Yang Bao excitedly. It should be correct. After we pick up people in Zhenhe City and return to Yancheng, I can take Chang Jiangzhang to see it in person. At that time, I will bring a few more mountain movers and move all the things inside. Yang Bao responded. In fact, Yang Bao wanted to tell Chang Ning and Yan Xiansu about the information of this batch of explosives a long time ago. After all, resisting the lost heart ghost is the business of all human beings. At this time, it should not be kept private. But after all, Yancheng is different from Yangcheng. Yancheng is a strange outsider to her, and they had confronted each other not long ago. Although they didn't really fight, it was still unpleasant. She also knew that explosives represent a very large destructive power. Yangcheng currently does not have the conditions to use explosives, but Yancheng, where there is a master craftsman, can definitely use these explosives. In this case, once the crisis of the lost heart ghost is resolved, Yancheng will be a huge threat to Yangcheng. So she hesitated for several days and did not tell this information. But since she slept in the presidential suite on the Yancheng last night, especially after taking a shower for more than an hour, she had a new idea. Why not just join them? I think Yancheng is also very good. The people there are very kind and speak nicely. Ah, how did they make a thing like a shower? And there is a hairdryer. It's amazing. Chang Jiangzhang said that after eliminating the lost heart ghost, we will continue to gather into an overall social life. And what division of labor and cooperation will we have to do? So, after a night of ideological struggle, she finally decided to share the secret of Yangcheng with Chang Ning. Chang Ning didn't know that she had gone through so many dramas in her heart, but she was sincerely happy to have explosives to use. Explosives are so useful. In addition to being used to ambush a group of mad ghosts, they can also be used to make bullets and shells. During production, they can also be used to open up paths in places that are beyond human reach. With explosives, Zunlu's shotguns are no longer limited. He can even make some simple mortars, at least a few powerful and heartless cannons. Chang Ning became more and more excited as he thought about it. He stood up, walked back and forth a few steps, and then asked Yang Bao, "Is there a lot of explosives in that room?" Yang Bao looked up and recalled, "That room is full of explosives. It looks like it is as big as this entire floor of the cabin. There should be a lot of them. So many. It seems that she has found the arsenal before the end of the world." Before the end of the world, there were some military bases and equipment centers from Jiangling City to Shanghai City. It is estimated that Yang Bao found one of the material storage places. In addition to explosives, there should be other military equipment there, which can be explored. He clapped his hands on the cabinet next to him. "Great. When we get back to Yunsheng, we will go to this tunnel and take a look." Unexpectedly, the slap landed on the remote control that had just been placed on the TV cabinet. But the TV turned on. Chang Ning had just turned off the TV screen, but did not turn off the set-top box that controlled the screen output. So after the screen turned on, the content presented was still the content before it was turned off. Late night paid program. Seeing the screen on TV, Chang Ning and Yang Bao were both stunned. The air froze for a moment, and the scene became very awkward. Chang Ning smiled at Yang Bao embarrassedly, then quickly picked up the remote control and turned off the TV again. Yang Bao blushed. "What was that just now?" "Ah, nothing, just TV, TV." Chang Ning stuttered a little. TV. Yang Bao had never seen such a thing that could present real-life images. Curious, he stood up and walked around in front of the TV regardless of embarrassment. "I saw some pictures in it. Yes, this is for playing pictures." Chang Ning gradually regained his composure at this time. Not only can it play pictures, but the people in it can also move, and there are sounds. "Really?" Yang Bao's eyes lit up. Chang Ning nodded, calmly picked up the remote control, and turned on the TV again. Then he quickly clicked the back button, and came to the main screen. "Speaking of which, I was just about to watch TV before you came." He turned and walked back to the sofa to sit down, choosing between variety shows and movie channels for a while, and turned on the movie channel. Then he flipped through a few pages and found an old movie that he had seen introduced in the book History of the Development of Film in the 23rd Century, and clicked to play it. This is a typical art film. When the film was shot, it was at the end of the Great Schism, and the new Renaissance and humanistic thoughts gradually emerged. The content of this film is a reflection on the 200 years of human division. After a simple opening and logo display, the movie entered the plot part. Yang Bao also sat down next to Chang Ning, staring at the pictures on TV. "That person is so pitiful." Halfway through the film, Yang Bao felt very sympathetic to the male protagonist's experience in the movie, and his eyes were filled with tears. Chang Ning also nodded. Although the plot of this kind of art film is very slow, it has been a long time since he watched a movie, and he watched it very attentively. Not to mention Yang Bao, it was her first time to watch a movie, and this immersive and intuitive art form was still very touching. "Ah, how did she die? No one could save her? Where are the awakened ones? Just watch her being killed by falling rocks." In the film, the heroine, due to the tearing state of the human society and the Great Divide, gathered a group of idealists with the male protagonist and moved out of the city, but was hit by a falling rock in an accident and was dying. After all, this kind of art film has a tragic core, and Chang Ning understands it very well. But Yang Bao couldn't accept it. There were no awakened ones at that time. Chang Ning replied beside him. "This is a movie in the 23rd century, and humans will not begin to awaken until after the doomsday disaster in the 24th century. What she had been pursuing had just begun, and her life was finally going to get better. Why did she die so quietly?" Yang Bao was already sobbing beside her. Chang Ning had to comfort her. "Don't cry, this is just a story. The woman in it didn't really die. This story was made up, and the people in it are all actors. It's not real." "It's not real?" Yang Bao raised her head and wiped her tears, but she was obviously still immersed in it and couldn't extricate herself. After a while, the movie finally finished playing. When the end credits began to roll, Yang Bao sighed deeply, feeling lost. Chang Ning scratched his head. How could she see the shadow in a movie? Otherwise, find her a comedy? So he picked up the remote control again, exited the movie, and returned to the selection interface. That Yang Bao next to him suddenly spoke again. When you turned on the TV just now, those pictures, were they also movies? Can they be played? P.S. This is the only chapter today. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116, Zhenhe Tower. Well, of course you can watch it. Chang Ning blushed. He knew that the relationship between men and women in this era was not so conservative, and even a little chaotic. There were few established monogamous families, and most of them were just fleeting relationships. But Chang Ning, who came from the 21st century, still had some psychological barriers. The moral values he had learned since childhood told him that he couldn't be so casual. He had to find someone he liked and who also liked him and manage a relationship seriously. As for physical intimacy, of course there must be an emotional foundation, and the relationship must be confirmed before it can proceed. Now when he heard Yang Bao's question, he couldn't help but feel a little confused. To be honest, Yang Bao was considered a top beauty in this era. She had been an awakener since she was a child, and she had lived a life of luxury. She had never suffered any hardship or done any heavy work. She looked similar to Yun Shai and Su, both with fair skin and a quiet temperament. And she was also a magical awakener full of mysterious charm, a living magician. If she insisted on watching that kind of movie with me, would I agree? A single man and a single woman. What if something happened during the movie? Chang Ning was a little distressed. Yang Bao blushed slightly when he heard Chang Ning's answer, but he didn't look particularly shy. Instead, he said in a straightforward tone, "So, the TV in my room can also be turned on with this small remote control?" Ah, yes. It turned out that he was going back to his room to watch it. Chang Ning breathed a sigh of relief, not knowing whether he was disappointed or relieved. Yang Bao stood up and said goodbye. "Then I'll go back first." We agreed to go back to Yuncheng to check on the explosives? Okay. Chang Ning scratched his head, but don't be too obsessed with the TV. I guess we will arrive soon, and we will get off the ship together then. Yang Bao waved his hand, "I know," and walked straight out of Chang Ning's room. After seeing Yang Bao off, Chang Ning was no longer in the mood to watch TV. He also walked out of the room and climbed to the 7th floor rooftop. There was a crew member on duty in the watchtower on the rooftop. When he saw Chang Ning, he greeted him excitedly. Chang Ning also smiled and nodded at him, then looked around. It was already 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun was setting in the west, hanging in front of the right side of the ship, not far from the sea level. Chang Ning looked south with his hands on the pergola, and saw a hint of green rising from the sea level. Changjiang sect. There is land there. The crew on duty in the watchtower also discovered the green, and shouted to Chang Ning excitedly. Chang Ning nodded and looked at the direction. The land appeared in front of the left side of the ship, which is the southeast, and the Zhenhe city he expected should appear in the south or southwest. Did he go in the wrong direction? He continued to look, and soon the land gradually became clear. Chang Ning realized that it was an island. In Chang Ning's memory, there were hundreds of large and small islands on the sea in the direction of Zhenhe City, which was the largest archipelago on the eastern coast of China. The largest island is also a famous tourist area. Before the end of the world, it was one of the holy places of Buddhism, and incense was burning all day long. Since the shadow of this archipelago was seen, it was not far from Zhenhe City. Chang Ning turned and went downstairs and came to the cockpit on the 3rd floor. Changjiangzang. There are islands over there. Jia Yao shouted to Chang Ning as soon as he entered the door. Chang Ning nodded. That is the archipelago opposite Zhenhe City. Since we can see these islands, we are very close to Zhenhe City. As he spoke, a piece of land appeared on the right side in front of him, gradually getting bigger in the field of vision. It should be over there. Chang Ning pointed to the land. Come over, we will sail along the coastline. Xiao nodded, controlled the ship to turn slightly to the right, and soon arrived at the edge of the land over there. This piece of rocky, windy, and high waves is completely different from the soft beach and breeze in Chang Ning's impression. Even the coast looks much harsher after the apocalypse. The fleet was led by the Yuncheng, and more than 20 ships came to this coast in a mighty manner, sailing about 1 kilometer away from the shore. After more than 10 minutes, the coastline turned to the east, and a river estuary several hundred meters wide appeared on the shore. It should be here. Chang Ning pointed to the estuary and said, "This is Yangjiang River." The boat goes in, and goes upstream for a few kilometers to get there. The fleet turned together, and sailed into the mouth of Yangjiang River. Although the river here is wide enough for Yuncheng to sail, it is much narrower than the Big River and Pujiang River. Moreover, it seems that there is also a large dock near the estuary before the end of the world. Many ships of similar size to Yuncheng are abandoned on the shallows by the river, which makes Xiao and his team who are driving Yuncheng much more careful. After driving in the winding river for more than 20 minutes, after passing the ruins of several pre-apocalyptic bridges, a group of buildings with a strong doomsday style appeared on the river bank next to it. Judging from the scale, it should be Zhenhe City. The docking conditions on the river bank are not good. Yuncheng is anchored in the middle of the river, and other small patrol boats take turns to pick up the people on Yuncheng to disembark and dock. The people of Zhenhe City over there also saw the fleet in the river. Suddenly, more than 100 people rushed out of the city, each holding a weapon, and standing in line on the riverbank. "Where are you from?" Chang Ning, Yang Bao, Linuqian, Yun Qian and Xiao were on the first patrol boat. When they were about to dock, a bearded man who was the leader of the team on the shore shouted. He spoke with full energy, and his muscles were bulging under his clothes. He looked full of power. He was probably a mountain mover or other awakener known for his strength. Chang Ning responded from the bow, "We are from Yuncheng." Yuncheng? The man didn't seem to expect that the people from Yuncheng would come so quickly, and then showed a trace of joy. "You are finally here. We have been looking forward to it for a long time." As he said, he and the man on the shore led the fleet into a port area suitable for docking. "Are you the Lord of ZHU? I'm Chang Ning from Yuncheng. This is Yang Bao from Yangcheng, and this is from Lincheng." Chang Ning jumped off the boat first, and introduced the people on his side to the other party. When Xiang Bao brought back the information before, he told him that the Lord of Zhenhe City was a big man named ZHU, with a full beard and a heroic appearance. By comparison, it should be the person in front of him. ZHU nodded. He didn't expect that Yuncheng would have such a large fleet, nor did he expect that the Linup on board would be so luxurious. Whenever Chang Ning introduced someone, he would grin and greet the other person with joy in his eyes. After Chang Ning introduced the main personnel here, ZHU stepped forward and held Chang Ning's hand. "Oh, Chang Jiangzang. You are here. I have been looking forward to seeing you for a long time. I have heard of your great name for a long time. Oh, it is rare to see a master level strongman these days, and today 4 of them came at once. Our Zhenhe City has never welcomed such distinguished guests. Come on, come in. Let's go to the city to talk. Come on, everyone. Hey, please greet the people behind me. City Lord Yang, City Lord Lin, Master Yun, let's go this way, come." ZHU spoke very competently, and was very enthusiastic in dealing with people. But Chang Ning noticed that his face was blue, as if there was something wrong with his health. Moreover, among the more than 100 people brought by ZHU, many had bloodstains on their clothes, and some walked in strange postures, which showed that they were injured. Chang Ning and his companions followed ZHU into the city. As they walked, Chang Ning asked, "Lord ZHU, have you had a battle?" ZHU did not hide it from him, and nodded, "Yes. We were attacked by the Lost Heart Ghosts last night." Chang Ning was shocked. He thought that the Lost Heart Ghosts army would be at least half a month away from Zhenhe City, but they arrived last night, and it seems that ZHU and his companions repelled the attack of the Lost Heart Ghosts. Is Zhenhe City so powerful? Seeing Chang Ning's surprised look, ZHU added, "It's not the legendary Lost Heart Ghost army. It looks like an advance army. Or is it gathering intelligence? In short, there were more than a dozen lost heart ghosts. They sneaked into Zenhei City under the cover of darkness last night. Fortunately, our people found them early. After a hard battle, we killed 3 of them, and the rest ran away. Chang Ning nodded. It turned out that there were only a dozen of them. However, facing more than a dozen lost heart ghosts, it is not an easy task to repel their attack. And Chang Ning did not expect that the Lost Heart Ghost Brigade would actually send out scouts to explore the way. No wonder they march so fast and can launch fierce and steady attacks on human towns along the way. It turns out that they will collect intelligence in advance. The IQ of this Lost Heart Ghost leader is almost the same as that of a human general. Are your people injured? Chang Ning asked Zhute with concern. Zhute chuckled. No, there are only a few of our people who are injured, but they are not in danger of life. That's good. Chang Ning breathed a sigh of relief. Those who participated in the resistance against the Lost Heart Ghosts last night must be the most combat-capable awakened people in Zenhei City. If a few of them died, it would be a big loss for the subsequent unity to resist the Lost Heart Ghost army. While talking, everyone also arrived outside Zenhei City. Chang Ning looked up and saw that the gate of Zenhei City was a huge ancient archway-like building with 3 large characters Zenhei Tower engraved on it. It is unknown whether it is a relic left by human civilization before the end of the world or made by them later. If they engraved the words themselves, it means that there are literate people among them, which is quite rare in the Doomsday. The wall of Zenhei City is relatively rough, a circle of stone and scrap iron mixed buildings. Although it does not look very beautiful, it should be strong enough. Walking into the city gate, the architectural style in the city is also completely different from that of Yancheng and Yangcheng. The most common houses in Zenhei City are iron houses, just like the slums of Asan and Samba that Chang Ning had seen on TV in the 21st century. The densely packed iron houses are scattered all over the city in disorder. In addition to the simple iron houses, there are several buildings in the city, which are simply moved into use as houses. Chang Ning even saw a supergiant ship with a length of more than 200 meters, lying in the center of Zenhei City. That's our meeting hall. Zhute pointed to the big ship and led everyone over there. We caught a living insane ghost last night and locked it there. Chapter 117 Analysis of the Lost Heart Ghost. Living. Lost Heart Ghost. To be honest, Lost Heart Ghost is a hot topic in this era. Chang Ning has heard a lot about it and has seen several Lost Heart Ghosts from afar and even killed one with his own hands. But he has never observed a living Lost Heart Ghost up close. He couldn't help but become interested. The house transformed from the big ship in front of him had a simple door opened at the bottom of the ship. The cutting process was not very good and the edges were rough. Zhute led everyone into the cabin through this door. As soon as he entered the door, there was a hall, which was probably the warehouse area at the bottom of the cabin. It was made by dismantling the partitions. It was somewhat similar to the hall on the 17th floor of Yancheng before. There were huge torches scattered around, but it was still dim, and there was a faint fishy smell in the air. Everyone followed Zhute through the hall, and came to the narrow ship's side stairs. They climbed up 2 floors along the stairs. Then they walked out through the door next to them. This is a deck level, but on this land ship, it is actually equivalent to a small high-altitude rooftop. There were several cages on the deck, one of which held a humanoid creature with pale skin and light brown hard hair all over its body. It was about 1.5 meters tall, and its body shape and appearance were very similar to humans, but there were some differences. It made people feel fear at first sight. Chang Ning knew that this was the so-called uncanny valley effect. When a creature's appearance became closer and closer to humans, humans would have a higher and higher favorable impression of it until a certain critical point, which would make people feel extremely fearful. In the 21st century, some robots that looked a bit like humans, but were obviously different from humans, would have this uncanny valley effect, which made people feel very uncomfortable. This insane ghost was squatting in a corner of the cage very quietly. When he saw a group of people coming up in a mess, he jumped up immediately, pounced forward very fiercely, and was blocked by the cage. Then he grabbed the cage with both hands, stared at everyone, and made a low growl from his mouth. Chang Ning slowly approached and walked to about 1 meter away from the cage. A foul smell came with the wind, and he quickly changed his position and stood upwind. Chang Ning silently observed the insane ghost and began to summarize the information about the insane ghost in his mind. It seems that all insane ghosts have pale and rough skin, short hair on their bodies, but no hair on their heads. They don't have human hair and eyebrows. The facial features of insane ghosts are generally vague, and normal humans may not be able to judge the identity of insane ghosts by their facial features. For example, the insane ghost in front of him, and the one Chang Ning killed in the tunnel of Yashan town. If they stand together, they are about the same height and look similar. Chang Ning can't tell them apart at all. But when it comes to height, it seems that different insane ghosts have huge differences. For example, the first insane ghost Chang Ning saw, the Liling in Yansheng, was nearly 3 meters tall. The one in front of him, and the one in the tunnel of Yashan town are only between 1.5 and 1.6 meters tall. It seems that insane ghosts can be roughly identified by height. Seeing Chang Ning observing it carefully, the insane ghost also stared at Chang Ning. After staring at each other for a while, Chang Ning actually felt that the eyes of the mad ghost revealed human emotions, which were anxious and uneasy. Illusion? Although mad ghosts are all transformed from humans, they should have no human emotions and memories at all. In order to verify, Chang Ning took out a compressed biscuit from his backpack, tore open the package, and threw it over. Young Qian yelled beside him, "What are you doing? Watch it in a civilized manner, and don't feed it. If you don't want to eat it, you can give it to me." Chang Ning ignored her, and stared at the mad ghost. When the mad ghost saw Chang Ning throwing something over, he was startled at first, and dodged to the side. Then seeing that Chang Ning did not make any further moves, he walked to the biscuit again, staring at the compressed biscuit on the ground with a puzzled look. Then he picked up the biscuit and smelled it, revealing greed and hunger in his eyes, and stuffed the compressed biscuit into his mouth. Chang Ning nodded, confirming that this mad ghost had some emotions and desires, at least not much different from a pet raised by humans. It's just that humans have never been able to normally contact the lost heart ghost. Every time the two sides meet, it's either you or I live, so there is no way to observe the details of the lost heart ghost, right? ZHUT introduced from the side. This is just one of the lost heart ghost team that attacked our Zhenhe city yesterday. When they were repelled, it happened to run to the trap we dug to catch wild animals before, and was captured alive. Yang Bao frowned slightly, obviously very uncomfortable with the appearance and smell of this lost heart ghost. Lin Yuqian, like Chang Ning, observed this lost heart ghost with interest, not knowing what he was thinking. When we set out for Yansheng, we will kill it before we set out. What is it called? Sacrifice? ZHUT continued. Chang Ning nodded. Okay, this should boost morale. Anyway, there is no scientific research institution that can dissect and study this lost heart ghost in detail. Killing it to sacrifice the flag is also a good way to boost morale. Judging from the reaction of the lost heart ghost's eyes, they should be much smarter than previously thought. Chang Ning felt that when the lost heart ghost army came, there should be a fierce battle. Even if they have powerful gunpowder and various weapons, and many awakened people gather together to resist in unity, they should have to pay a considerable price to achieve the final victory. After watching this crazy ghost, ZHUT took everyone in Yansheng back to the first cabin and set up a banquet. Most of the food on the table was barbecued game, both on land and in the water. The people in Zhenhe city even took out a few jars of rice wine. Anyway, these things are hard to take away, so why don't we drink them together today? ZHUT touched the wine jar with his hand, seeming reluctant. Today's Zhenhe city is full of the bitterness of separation. More than 3,000 residents are about to leave this place, where they have lived for nearly 300 years. Chang Ning could hear bursts of loud voices coming from the outside of the big shipbuilding, as if someone was crying and shouting, and some people were singing out of tune ballads. The atmosphere in the cabin was also very dull. Everyone ate and drank silently, and soon they dispersed. Lying on the cable bed in the cabin of Zhenhe City, Chang Ning couldn't help but miss the soft big bed of the president's suite on the Yansheng. He tossed and turned, always feeling uncomfortable, no matter how he lay down, and couldn't fall asleep for a while. He thought about how to deal with the insane ghost in his mind. After a while, his thoughts drifted, and the shadow of Yang Bao appeared in his mind again. Yang Bao's shadow gradually faded, and Yan Xianzu's face appeared in his mind again. While he was daydreaming, he suddenly heard a scream from outside. Then, there was a hurried ringing of bells from the direction of the city gate, and a man's voice came from afar. "Those beasts are here again." Chapter 118 Night Attack. Chang Ning jumped off the bed immediately after hearing the call, opened the door, and went to the corridor. Several other doors nearby also opened, and Yan Qian, Yang Bao, Lin Yuqian and others came out one after another. "What's that sound?" Yang Bao looked a little haggard, and it seemed that he was not asleep either. Several people looked at each other, shook their heads, and then ran along the corridor to the deck together. After a few steps to the deck of the shipbuilding, they looked down and saw flames rising to the sky below, and countless people holding torches were running in the city. The most densely lit place was in the southwest corner of Zhenhe City. There were a lot of people there, and it was difficult to see anything in the shadows. "Let's go. Go and take a look." Lin Yuqian jumped off the deck first, and landed on the ground lightly, as if he had no weight. Yang Qian followed behind him, jumped lightly, and landed steadily like a gliding bird. Chang Ning and Yang Bao walked to the edge of the deck and looked down. It was still about 20 meters above the ground. The physical strength of the two awakened people of the Stargate is not very high. If they jump down directly like Lin Yuqian and Yan Qian, they will probably die first. The two looked at each other, both helpless. "Take the stairs," Yang Bao suggested. Chang Ning shook his head. "I have a rappelling rope. It should be faster." He was in a hurry to come out just now, and he didn't carry his backpack. There was a rappelling rope in his backpack, although it was not as long as the one he brought to the superstructure of Yunsheng. It was more than 50 meters long, which was enough for this occasion. After Chang Ning finished speaking, he turned and ran back to the room, then quickly found the rope in his backpack, and turned back to the deck. While running in the corridor, he heard a loud scream of "Ah!" from the deck. It was Yang Bao's voice. Did she encounter any danger? Chang Ning quickened his pace. A few seconds later, Chang Ning had run to the exit leading to the deck. Before he went out, he saw a dazzling light flashing outside, which almost blinded Chang Ning's eyes. Then there was a rumbling sound, as if an extremely powerful thunder had hit the deck. Chang Ning closed his eyes tightly, rubbed them a few times, and then opened them. When he looked outside, he saw 3 crazy ghosts scattered all over the deck, as if they were burnt. In the middle of the deck, next to the cage that locked the crazy ghost caught by Zhenhe City yesterday, there was a big hole, also emitting black smoke, obviously pierced by lightning. Next to the big hole, Yang Bao stood there with a look of horror on his face, his palms still waving like the last time he killed the evil beast in Yangcheng Lake. Aren't the crazy ghosts in the southwest corner of Zhenhe City? How could they run here? Chang Ning rushed out and walked to Yang Bao. "Are you okay?" Yang Bao shook his head in shock. "It's okay. I was scared to death when these 3 crazy ghosts suddenly rushed out just now. Why did he appear here?" Chang Ning protected Yang Bao behind him, took out the Desert Eagle and Skywalker #1 laser sword, and looked around vigilantly. "I don't know either. Not long after you ran in, these things suddenly climbed up from the wall and rushed straight towards me." Yang Bao was still in shock. "I was scared to death. They were only 10 meters away from me. I almost didn't react." Chang Ning was also very grateful. Fortunately, Yang Bao was an awakened person with combat capabilities. If Yan Xianzu was in that position, there was almost no chance of survival. He looked around and confirmed that there were no other insane ghosts. He slowly walked to the front and checked the 3 insane ghosts lying on the ground one by one. After confirming that they were all dead, he breathed a sigh of relief, walked back to the side of the ship, and looked down. But he saw Yan Qian and Lin Yuqian running back here and lightly jumped onto the deck. "What happened?" Lin Yuqian looked serious. It was estimated that he and Yan Qian heard the movement here and ran back before they reached the southwest corner of Zhenhe City. Just now, several insane ghosts suddenly appeared here and tried to attack, but I killed them all. We were not injured. Yang Bao explained to him. Lin Yuqian looked Yang Bao up and down, and after confirming that she was not injured, he glanced at Chang Ning again, and then nodded. "I'm glad you're okay." After seeing the 2 main combatants come back, Chang Ning breathed a sigh of relief, relaxed his body, and began to think quickly. There was a commotion in the southwest corner of Zhenhe City. It looked like a lost heart ghost had invaded. After everyone's attention was focused on that side, 3 lost heart ghosts suddenly appeared here. This is a typical tactic of luring the tiger away from the mountain. It seems that their target should be the lost heart ghost in the cage. First they created a commotion, and then they sneaked in and tried to rescue it. If Yang Bao and I hadn't happened to be here, maybe this lost heart ghost in the cage would have been rescued. Do lost heart ghosts really have no human intelligence and emotions? Chang Ning couldn't help but have doubts. He turned his head and looked at the cage behind him. Under the light of the fire, the lost heart ghost in the cage had a complicated look, which seemed to be angry, unwilling, and sad. Chang Jiangzang, what happened? Zhu Tai led his men up the stairs, rushed to the rooftop, and shouted to everyone. Chang Ning repeated to Zhu Tai what Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian had just said, and Zhu Tai was also surprised. So, these insane ghosts can use tricks? He smacked his lips, touched his beard, and looked incredible. Chang Ning nodded. It feels like our opponent this time is a bit difficult. How are the insane ghosts in the southwest? They just caused some damage there. Not long after our people rushed over, they all retreated. Zhu Tai replied. Chang Ning frowned. This is obviously to attract firepower. For a while, everyone looked at the 3 bodies of insane ghosts on the ground and were speechless. This happened at night, and everyone had no mood to sleep. In fact, as an awakened person, not sleeping for a few days does not affect your energy much. Zhu Tai simply called a few awakened people in the city who ran fast, and after telling them a few words, he sent them out of the city. Let them greet the surrounding towns in advance and come to meet up at dawn tomorrow. We will set off early. Zhu Tai explained. Chang Ning nodded. This idea is right. Judging from the performance of the crazy ghosts tonight, the sooner they move, the better. Now everyone thinks that the army of crazy ghosts is more than half a month away from them, but is it really the case? Is it possible that they deliberately create an illusion to confuse humans? Chang Ning now has no doubt that the crazy ghosts have such intelligence. Looking at the time, it was more than 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was estimated that there were still 2 hours before dawn. Zhenhe City is very close to Yangjiang River. The distance from the city gate to the riverside is not very dangerous for the awakened ones. So he simply called Yun Qian, Yang Bao, Lin Yuqian and others to return to the ship in advance to arrange the pickup mission. Next, there should be a tough battle. Chapter 119 The Great Migration. Fortunately, the few hours before dawn were safe and sound. Chang Ning and his team had arranged the fleet's reception work early. When it was just dawn, a row of ships with displacements ranging from 500 to 2,000 tons had already stopped at the nearest suitable shore for docking to Zhenhe City. The sun was about to rise, and it seemed that this thrilling night was over. The estimated number of residents in Zhenhe City and the surrounding towns was 6,000 or 7,000. So the entire fleet could still accommodate this group of people relatively easily. On the Yuncheng, there was no need for more than 10 people to squeeze into one room. Only 5 or 6 people were needed to live in one room, plus other small boats were used to divert the flow, which was enough. The food and drinking water moved from the Yuncheng's reserve warehouse were also placed on the shore, and the crew of Yuncheng had made preparations for the reception. The first ray of sunlight shone on the surface of the Yangjiang River, and a long team from the direction of Zhenhe City walked towards this side. Chang Jiangzang, Zhu Tai walked at the front of the team and began to greet from a distance. Come here. Chang Ning also greeted him. Zhu Tai hurried a few steps and came to Chang Ning. Sorry to bother you. No trouble. Chang Ning smiled and said, let your people line up, and each person first collect a portion of food and water for the day, and then go to the first boat at the back. This boat will board 200 people first, and when it is full of 200 people, it will leave and ferry people to the big ship in the center of the river, the Yuncheng. The next team will continue to board the second ship, and so on. Do you understand what I mean? Zhu Tai nodded. Of course. Then we will do it this way. After speaking, he turned around and shouted to several men, instructing them to board the ship. The team began to search, and one of ZHUT's men pushed out a cage with wheels from the back, in which was the captured crazy ghost. ZHUT made a gesture, and the man raised his knife, and chopped off the head of the crazy ghost through the cage. The crazy ghost made a few hee sounds, and fell to the ground motionless. The crowd cheered immediately. The leading team began to walk towards the ferry of Yancheng. The sailors on the Yancheng side were also ready. Those responsible for distributing food, guiding people to board the ship, and maintaining order, all performed their duties according to the arrangements made by Chang Ning, Yang Bao, and Lin Yuqian last night. Although there were many people boarding the ship from Zhenhe City, they were in an orderly manner. It can be seen that the people of Zhenhe City were quite united, and there was no scramble to board the ship. More than an hour later, 2 ferries had already left, and several smaller teams also set out from the other side of the shore. These were residents of small towns near Zhenhe City. These people came from different towns, and some of them had grudges against each other. When these people joined the boarding team, the whole team instantly became chaotic. Chang Ning and ZHUT, together, dispatched the awakened people from Yancheng and Zhenhe City to suppress them forcefully, and only then did they stabilize the situation. After the number of teams increased, more boarding positions were opened, and 3 ferries boarded people at the same time. The crew members of the entire Yancheng were very busy. This continued until the sun set. Chang Ning looked at the time, and it was already 3:30 in the afternoon. All the people had boarded the ship and settled down. This time was very awkward. If we set off now, we would not be able to reach Yancheng before dark. If we don't leave now, we will have to drift here for a night. After experiencing the sneak attack of the Lost Heart Ghost last night, it was not a wise choice to stay here for a night. What to do? Chang Ning stood in the cockpit of the Yancheng, pondered for a moment, and then said, "Let's go now. Go east from the mouth of Yangjiang River, don't turn left." Jia Yao originally thought that she would stay here for a night, but she didn't expect Chang Ning to ask to set off directly, and the route was not the same as when she came. "Let's go to the archipelago for a night. No matter how powerful the Lost Heart Ghost is, he can't swim," Chang Ning explained. Jia Yao suddenly realized that she had heard Chang Ning explain the geographical knowledge of the nearby waters yesterday. Not far away from the sea opposite Zhenhe City is a large archipelago, so she no longer hesitated and sounded the whistle of the Yancheng to signal the surrounding ships, then slowly started the Yancheng. Half an hour later, the fleet sailed out of the mouth of Yangjiang River. The weather was good today. As soon as they entered the sea, they could see an island in the distance. "Is that it?" Jia Yao pointed to the island opposite the river mouth and asked. Chang Ning shook his head. "Go around. There is a bigger island behind this island. There should be enough berths there. We will spend the night there." He had been to the archipelago city in the 21st century. At that time, there was a cross-sea bridge from Zhenhe to the archipelago. He remembered that the bridge was divided into 2 sections. The first section passed a smaller island, which should be the island in front of him. After passing this island, it took another section to reach the central island of the archipelago city. Jia Yao nodded and said, "I understand. Then leave it to me." Chang Ning smiled at her and turned to leave the cabin. In addition to the 4 presidential suites, the 7th floor of the Yancheng has more than 20 ordinary suites. It is now full of awakened people from Zhenhe City and surrounding towns. Most people are going out to sea by boat for the first time, and they are crowded on the side of the ship to see the scenery. Some people looked at the water with vigilance. From time to time, huge monsters several tens of meters long swam slowly in the water. Although they did not attack the Yancheng, these landlubbers were terrified. Chang Ning ignored these people and went straight to Yan Qian's suite. Now this has become a shared room for Chang Ning, Yan Qian, Yang Bao, and Lin Yuqian. In order to save space for the people of Zhenhe City, they can no longer enjoy the treatment of 1 person per room. As soon as I entered the door, I found that 4 people were watching TV intently on the sofa. In addition to the 3 people from Yancheng, ZHUT, who had a beard, was also sitting there. The content broadcast on TV was obviously a bitter love drama, which was not much different from the dome-shaking drama that Chang Ning had seen in the 21st century. The 4 people stared at it, and no one turned to look at Chang Ning when he came in. Chang Ning couldn't help but frown. You said that Yang Qian and Yang Bao were watching this, so it's okay, but Lin Yuqian and ZHUT, two big men, are also watching it so seriously. What kind of look are they? But Chang Ning could understand it. After all, they had never watched TV and had not cultivated their own artistic aesthetics. I must introduce some exciting movies to them to broaden their horizons later. Chang Ning thought to himself. It seems that they will ignore him, and he doesn't want to watch those boring romance dramas. Although he didn't sleep last night, it didn't have much impact, but it was healthier to make up for the sleep, so he turned and walked to the bedroom, lay down on the bed, and fell asleep. When he woke up, the sun had already set. Chang Ning got up and looked out the window. The fleet had arrived at the port of the main island of the archipelago and anchored. It seems that we will spend the night here tonight. He stretched. When he was about to turn around and go downstairs to eat, he glanced at the jungle on the shore. A group of figures holding spears were shuttling through the dense forest. Hey, what is that? Chapter 120, Islands and Gods. Hey, stop watching TV. There are people from the island outside welcoming us. Chang Ning heard the sound of the TV in the living room still ringing, turned around and walked out while talking. Welcome us. ZHUT was the first to stand up and respond to Chang Ning. He also walked to the window, looked out, and his eyes fixed. Is this a human? Not a crazy ghost? ZHUT said as he watched. Chang Ning nodded. It seems so. But why would a group of humans come out at nightfall? Aren't they afraid of danger? ZHUT frowned and walked away from the window. Yang Bao picked up the remote control and pressed the pause button. Let's watch it later. Let's get down to business first. Then he and Lin Yuqian walked to the window to observe. Yang Qian saw that everyone had stood up, and she stood up reluctantly. Really? Why are there so many things to do in one trip? Let's go down and take a look. Lin Yuqian looked at the scene outside the window and turned back to Chang Ning. Chang Ning nodded. Let's go. The five of them said hello to Xiao and the others in the cockpit when they passed the third floor and then went down to the deck. This should have been a large port before the end of the world. Many wreckages of 10,000-ton ships can be seen not far away. But the number of ships is obviously less than that of the ports in Shanghai and the ports on the banks of Yangjiang River. Therefore, the fleet of Yanqing can be anchored inside the breakwater, and the ships are very stable now. The Yanqing is about 50 or 60 meters away from the shore. In the light of the dim yellow clouds in the sky, the scene on the shore can still be roughly seen. There is obviously a team of about 50 or 60 people in the dense forest, each holding a spear, hiding behind the bushes, secretly observing the Yanqing. Chang Ning's eyesight is very good now, and he can see that the humans in the dense forest are wearing very rough animal skins, looking more like primitive people than the people in Yaosan. What are they doing? They are sneaky. Yang Qian was obviously unhappy when she was interrupted while watching TV. You can't tell until you touch it. You can't tell now, Chang Ning replied. Then he turned around and removed one of the lifeboats on the deck and threw it into the sea using the lifting equipment next to it. Splash. The boat made a sound when it entered the water, causing the crowd on the shore to stir. It was not dark yet, and although there was a lot of noise, the evil beasts in the sea did not come near the water surface to check. Let's go. Chang Ning brought a rappelling rope this time. He tied the rope to the side of the ship and then descended, sliding into the lifeboat. Lin Yuqian and Yang Qian did not use ropes, but jumped themselves and jumped onto the boat accurately. Yang Bao stretched his head and looked down. You all went down. What should I do? Go down the rope. Chang Ning looked up and answered. Yang Bao looked at the rope, then looked at the distance between the side of the ship and the water, and shook his head firmly. I won't. ZHUT also stood in front of Yang Bao, shaking his head like a rattle. Then you guys just wait here. Lin Yuqian shook his head, then looked down at Yang Qian. Yang Qian stared back in confusion, and found that Chang Ning was also looking at her, so she asked, what are you doing? Chang Ning and Lin Yuqian said together, rowing. Although the three of them have their own skills, Chang Ning and Lin Yuqian are both known for their strength. Yang Qian is not an awakener like the mountain mover who relies purely on strength, but the strength of her master level fighter is not less than that of an ordinary master level mountain mover. Although she is not big, she is the most suitable for rowing. Young Kai and Kian pouted, another child labor abuse. But she still picked up the oar and paddled on the water a few times, and the lifeboat rushed to the beach not far away. The humans in the dense forest saw the three of them landing and poked their heads out. An old man with a white beard and a shell necklace walked out of the crowd and came to Chang Ning and the others. "Are you here to worship?" the old man asked. "Pilgrimage? What is that?" Chang Ning and the other two were confused. "This is the largest land in the world, and it is the place where the great god of tides appears. You people from remote islands, if you are not here to worship, what else can you do?" the old man said sternly. Puff. Young Kai and Kian couldn't help laughing. "You little girl, you are so rude. You are disrespectful to the gods. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the gods?" the old man snorted, and every word was full of energy. Young Kai and Kian finally couldn't help laughing out loud, holding her belly, and it looked like she was laughing very hard. Chang Ning and Lin Yu Qian couldn't help laughing too. It seems that after the doomsday disaster, the archipelago has been isolated from the world for 300 years. This can't be blamed on the residents of the island. There was originally a cross-sea bridge that connected the island and the land, but after the doomsday disaster, it fell into disrepair and the bridge should not be usable soon. The people left on the island were isolated by the sea, and there were powerful beasts in the sea. They had no way to come to the land, so they could only live on the island. This island is blocked by several small islands in front, and the land is completely invisible. Looking around, there are other islands that are much smaller than this island. So 300 years later, the residents of the island now feel that they live in the largest land in the world, which is reasonable. It seems that they are very proud of the island they live on, and they deeply believe in the god of tides. But they don't know that there is land outside the island, and they don't know that the popular gods in the world now are wild gods. The old man saw that they all laughed, and he couldn't help but get angry. He waved his hand to let the people in the forest come out and make an attacking gesture. Dozens of big men with spears in the forest jumped out one after another, and they also looked at Chang Ning and the other two with anger on their faces, and they were about to attack. Chang Ning and the others didn't feel any fluctuations of star power from these big men at all, and their movements were not as outstanding as those of the Shaman Awakeners. So these people are ordinary people. Young Kai and Kian saw a group of people coming around. Her mouth curled up, and she clenched her fists, making a crisp sound. Then the whole person bounced out like a cannonball leaving the barrel. Chang Ning hurriedly said from behind, "Just beat them back. Don't kill anyone." Young Kai and Kian didn't even turn her head. "I know." As soon as she finished speaking, she rushed into the middle of the crowd, and then Chang Ning felt that his eyes were blurred, and more than a dozen shadows of Young Kai and Kian appeared at the same time. A few seconds later, these shadows merged into one again. But those big men fell to the ground, screaming. Their spears were neatly stacked together and broken into two halves of the same length. The old man was startled and knelt down in a hurry. It turned out that the messenger of God had arrived. "We didn't know. Please forgive us, messenger of God." Young Kai and Kian didn't know what to do now. She turned her head and looked at Chang Ning. Chang Ning thought about it for a while and understood the reason. The population of this island seems to be only a few hundred people. This population base may have produced some awakened people 100 or 200 years ago. Since the people on the island worship the god of tide, if a superpower appeared, he would definitely be worshipped as a messenger of God. But at this point in time, it is difficult for the hundreds of people on the island to produce another awakened person. Now the island should be full of ordinary people, but they have heard the legend of the god's messenger a long time ago. Now seeing young Kai and Kian showing her awakening ability, they naturally took her as a god's messenger. So he walked forward and said to the old man, "Ignorance is not a crime." Then he wanted to say something else, to trick the people on the island back to Yunsheng, to fight against the Lost Heart Ghost together, and to join the human technological development and social division of labor. But his mind changed, and he suddenly thought of another possibility. Chapter 121 Preparations for War. Looking at the mental state of the people on the island, Chang Ning doubted that there were no insane ghosts or evil beasts on the island. The group of people in front of him were all ordinary people. Although they showed awe of the sea, they were not nervous or afraid when they were outdoors at night. Only those who had never suffered a major blow in the wild would be so leisurely. This is the same as the fact that there are no awakened people on the island now. At a certain point in time more than 100 years ago, the number of awakened people dropped sharply, and correspondingly, the probability of insane ghosts and evil beasts mutating also dropped greatly. There are no awakened people, insane ghosts, or evil beasts on this island with only a few hundred people. Unless they encounter a monster like the land shark that runs out of the sea, they can pose some supernatural threats to them. However, it is a low probability event that evil beasts mutated in the sea can move on land, and most of these evil beasts will also target the mainland. After all, the resources on this small island are not as abundant as those on the mainland. This creates a rare scene in the doomsday. Such an overseas island is actually peaceful. It seems that the supernatural power confrontation in the outside world has nothing to do with them. Chang Ning frowned and recalled the information of Archipelago City in the 21st century. It seemed that at that time, the permanent population of Archipelago also exceeded 1 million. After all, it is a prefecture-level city. And now in a large area around Shanghai City, the total population is estimated to be less than 1/10 of the permanent population of Archipelago City before the end of the world. So, if everyone is moved here, will it be possible to form an environment without the disturbance of the lost heart ghost, so that humans can quickly restore the level of science and technology and productivity, and then go out of the island, to fight the lost heart ghost to the death? This is a feasible solution. He decided to keep the possibility of this matter, so he said to the old man, "You can see that we are the people who came from the largest land in the world, and we are the messengers of God. The people on your island have been sitting in the well and watching the sky for too long, and they don't know what is happening in the outside world. Now, God has sent us to help you, so that you can also connect with the outside world." The old man nodded hurriedly. The messenger of God is right. We are frogs at the bottom of the well. Chang Ning continued, "How do you live on this island? What is the source of food in the daily routine? Give me a general introduction first." The old man did not dare to hide it, and told everything about the island in detail. The fact is indeed similar to what Chang Ning guessed. There are no insane ghosts or evil beasts here. Although people don't come out much at night, it's because of the poor lighting conditions, not because of danger. Chang Ning hinted that the old man has lived on the island for more than 50 years and has never seen an insane ghost. This island can be called a paradise in the end of the world, but the productivity here is a little lower than that of ordinary towns on the mainland. It has basically returned to its original state before the agricultural society thousands of years ago. This island seems to have been transformed into a scenic spot or a protected area before the outbreak of the doomsday disaster in the 24th century. The permanent population is far less than that in the 21st century. After the doomsday disaster, not many human buildings and relics remain. After listening to the old man's introduction, Chang Ning sighed. It is really safe here, but it is also troublesome to restart civilization here. Relocating to this island can only be used as an alternative plan. When the insane ghosts on the mainland are too strong and humans can hardly survive, it can be considered. But if the army of insane ghosts is repelled or even destroyed, it is better to develop around Yancheng. After confirming that there was no threat to the fleet, Chang Ning, Yan Qian Qian and Lin Yuqian returned to the ship. Chang Ning also asked Xiao to send some food down. It was embarrassing to pretend to be a divine messenger for so long, so giving them some food was also a compensation. Nothing happened overnight, and the fleet set off again early the next morning. The voyage of more than half a day was very smooth. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the fleet stopped at the port of Yancheng. There was another chaotic disembarkation and formation. When it was dark, thousands of residents near Zhenhe City all came to the main building of Yancheng. With the increasing number of residents, Yancheng has now added 5 elevators, and a total of 7 elevators are running at full capacity, just enough to ensure the capacity of going up and down the stairs. The old residents of Yancheng have all moved to the 20th floor. The residents of Yangcheng, Lincheng and the northern town have moved into the 19th floor, and the new residents of Zhenhe City and the southern town live on the 18th floor. The residential area of the entire Yancheng is basically full. If people from Jinling City and Kayantang City come later, they can only live on the 21st floor. People who have already moved into Yancheng have started training in the past few days. With a steady supply of food from the Yancheng warehouse, everyone just practices fighting. In addition to the canteen and mushroom cultivation farm on the 17th floor, a special iron smelting workshop has been newly built, where blacksmiths gather to forge weapons. From ordinary steel knives and iron spears to crude shotguns and other firearms. It was a scene of great enthusiasm. After the residents of Zhenhe City and the surrounding towns moved in, Yanxians arranged a large banquet for all residents to attend. In the large canteen on the 17th floor, where many tables and chairs were added, tens of thousands of people had a full meal together, and the scene was very spectacular. Chang Ning, who lived in the 21st century, had never seen so many people crowded together to eat. This is really the most popular place in the doomsday. The dense flow of people also gave people who live in Yancheng a different state of mind, as if as long as there were enough people, any difficulties could be dealt with. The fear of facing the army of mindless ghosts has been reduced a lot, and the mentality of stability and progress has gradually returned to people. In the next few days, Chang Ning continued to repair the new community and completed the automatic transportation facilities and the huge warehouse on the 4th floor of Yancheng. Now the warehouse entry and exit are completed by robots left over from the old world, and the number of manpower required is further reduced. Young and middle-aged men are all soldiers and work hard. Women, the elderly and children do logistics work, such as farming, cooking, cleaning, carrying. Although these things don't seem to be a lot, they also require a lot of labor. The farmland in Yaosin is now almost full of elderly people and women. Although the army of mindless ghosts is about to arrive, life must go on. Before the battle begins, the farmland should be planted, so that after the battle is won, there will be enough food to feed the growing population in the subsequent life. The awakened people in the 4 major cities of Yancheng, Yangcheng, Lincheng, and Zhenhecheng were also reshuffled and arranged in a unified manner. Although there were some minor twists and turns in the middle, most people still firmly took human unity as the first goal, and everyone knew the horror of the mindless ghosts. In the newly formed New Cloud City, there is no longer a city lord position. Instead, Yanxians who, Chang Ning, Yang Bao, Lin Yuqian and Zhu Te form a decision-making committee. Any matter is voted on by the 5 people, and the majority support will pass. About 7 days later, Xiang Bao, who was sent to the south for reconnaissance, came back. "How is it? Did you find the Lost Heart Ghost Army?" Chang Ning asked Xiang Bao as he entered the door of the decision-making committee. Xiang Bao nodded. "Found it. They were close to Zhenhe City 3 days ago. I followed them for a while, and it seems that they went straight to Zhenhe City. The small group of crazy ghosts before were indeed scouts, pointing out the direction for the follow-up large force." Chang Ning nodded. "It is true. It seems that the IQ of this group of crazy ghosts is quite high. Were you discovered when you followed them?" Xiang Bao shook his head. "I observed them with the telescope you gave me. I have been hanging far away from them, about 4 or 5 kilometers away. There is nothing abnormal about them, so they probably didn't find me." Chang Ning asked, "Then in your opinion, when will the large group of crazy ghosts arrive in Yancheng?" Xiang Bao frowned and thought for a while. "If it is fast, it will take 7 or 8 days, and if it is slow, it will take at most 10 days. They will definitely be nearby." Chang Ning nodded, turned to the other 4 people on the committee and said, "Based on the time when the crazy ghosts conducted reconnaissance in Zhenhe City last time, it is very likely that a small group of crazy ghosts will come to the vicinity of Yancheng for reconnaissance in the next 1 or 2 days. Security work needs to be strengthened in the next few days." Zhu Te was the committee member in charge of security. He replied, "No problem. We have enough manpower now. We can send 20 to 30 awakened people to patrol together in a patrol team, which has an overwhelming advantage over the reconnaissance team of the Lost Heart Ghost. In the next few days, I will arrange 3 patrol teams to patrol continuously. In addition, I will also send a team of 20 awakened people to stay in Yao Town to protect the safety of the farmland. That's the best." Chang Ning felt that there was nothing wrong with Zhu Te's arrangement. Xiang Bao took 2 steps forward and said, "There is one more thing." "What?" Yun Xianzu asked. On my way back, I met people from Jinling City and Qiantang City. Xiang Bao replied, Qiantang City has already started the city relocation and is halfway there. It looks like they will reach Yuncheng tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. However, there is only one elite awakening team from Jinling City heading this way. When I went to communicate with them, they said that they did not have the conditions to transport all the residents of the city across the river, and they could only send their most elite team to fight against the Lost Heart Ghosts with us. I hope that the Lost Heart Ghost Brigade can be completely wiped out or severely damaged in Yuncheng, so that the people who are still in Jinling City will be safe. Chang Ning frowned. That won't work. What if the Lost Heart Ghost Brigade bypasses Yuncheng and heads straight for Jinling City? Wouldn't the people of Jinling City be in danger then? They even sent the most elite awakeners here, and the people left behind are not strong in combat. No, our fleet has to set out again to pick up everyone from Jinling City. In addition, if the people from Qiantang City arrive tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, we can only rearrange their accommodation. I think the 21st floor can be given up, and all awakened people with combat capabilities can live in the newly built community. Although the defense facilities there are not strong, if the awakened people gather together, safety can be guaranteed. Yun Xianzu nodded. Okay, I will arrange the accommodation. She is the committee member in charge of internal affairs, and this is her job. As for the fleet, let Xiao go again. Yun Xianzu asked. Chang Ning thought for a while. In addition to the necessary security personnel, other combat forces can be divided into a part to participate in the fleet to Jinling City, and another part can be divided into the direction of Qiantang City to meet in case of accidents on the way. Will this cause Yuncheng's defense to be empty? Zhute was a little worried. It shouldn't be a big problem. The Lost Heart Ghosts will arrive in 7 or 8 days at the earliest, and by then the teams on both sides will have returned long ago. Yang Bao also supported Chang Ning's point of view. Chapter 122 Before the War. Chang Ning stretched and yawned. He was standing on the construction site of a new residential community and had just refreshed the ruins of the last building in the community, with the addition of several houses and walls built by Huandang before, as well as some trees, rockery, green belts, etc. brought by some mountain movers. A fairly warm community has taken shape. There is number 17-story high wall of Yuncheng for protection, and no psychic cannon to look down from a high place. There is only a circle of low walls less than 3 meters, and the protection ability is several levels worse. However, before the arrival of the Lost Heart Ghost, this newly built community was only used to live in awakened people, and the residents all had combat capabilities, so there was no big problem. But now, the entire community is empty. After Yuncheng merged with the surrounding towns and Yangcheng, Lincheng, and Zhenhaicheng, there are about 200 awakened people in total. Half of them are Shineman awakened people, who have strengthened their own attributes, and are naturally good at fighting. The other half are Xingman awakened people. Some of them are suitable for combat, such as Yang Bao, and some are completely auxiliary abilities, such as Yun Xianzu. So in summary, there are about 150 combat awakeners. Among these people, there are about 20 permanent residents in Yao Town to protect the farmland in Yao Town, and more than 40 patrol teams around the main building of Yuncheng to protect ordinary people in the main building. In addition, there is a team of about 30 people each, going to Jinling City and Qiantang City to meet the people coming from there. Now there are only 20 to 30 combat awakeners stationed in the new community to rest. Most of the non-combat awakeners are in the main building of Yuncheng, carrying out their own production tasks. With the construction of the last residential building, this community will be used as one of the new residential areas around Yuncheng after the war. It is not a problem to squeeze in and accommodate 10,000 people. The current Awakener dormitory only occupies one building, and the other buildings are still vacant. There are a few Awakeners that Chang Ning does not know who are wandering downstairs in the dormitory, basking in the sun and stretching their bodies. If it were not for the impending arrival of the army of lost ghosts, it would be a peaceful time now. Chang Ning also enjoyed the sunset and sat in the courtyard of the community to rest. He named this newly built community Happy Community. Although it is very old-fashioned, it also contains his expectations for the future. As the sky was covered with clouds of fire, The sun set. The only dormitory building in the community with people began to light up. Chang Ning couldn't help but imagine what it would be like here with thousands of lights in the future. At this moment, Xiao Bao ran in from outside the community and started shouting. As soon as he entered the door, Chang Jiangzang, are you there? Chang Ning quickly stood up and greeted him. Here. Xiao Bao floated over in an instant. Something bad has happened. Chang Ning frowned. What's wrong? Why are you making a fuss again? Xiao Bao swallowed his saliva. Something bad has happened. We made a wrong judgment. The arrival time of the lost heart ghost is much earlier than expected. How much earlier? Chang Ning had a bad feeling in his heart. Above 10 days. Xiao Bao stuttered a little. 10 days earlier. When is that? Tonight. Xiao Bao lowered his head. What? Tonight? Chang Ning's head suddenly became big. The news that Xiao Bao brought back before was that the army of crazy ghosts had just arrived in Zhenhe City a few days ago. It is expected to arrive in Yancheng in 7 or 8 days at the fastest, and more than 10 days at the slowest. So nearly half of Yancheng's combat power was sent out to support the people in Qiantang City and Jinling City. The main combatants Yan Qian, Yang Bao and Lin Yuqian were not there at all. Now the most powerful combat awakener in Yancheng is a high-level fighter from Lincheng, and there are several master-level awakeners of moving mountains and gusts of wind in Yaozen. When there were enough people, they were unsure about fighting against the army of crazy ghosts. In this situation, after the army of crazy ghosts arrived, there was no chance of winning at all. What's going on? How can they arrive tonight? Chang Ning was a little anxious and spoke faster. There was a huge mistake in the investigation, and Xiao Bao was not the only one to blame for this. Xiao Bao lowered his head. I don't know either. I followed the army of crazy ghosts for 2 days near Zhenhe City, and roughly estimated their speed in the direction from Yancheng. It would take more than 7 days to get here. They hadn't entered Zhenhe City at that time. I thought that, after they went in, even if they found that there was no one, they would have to stay and rest. Who would have thought that they would arrive in Yancheng in 3 or 4 days? According to their speed, they directly skipped Zhenhe City and rushed here without sleep. Xiao Bao also looked helpless and spread his hands to defend himself. Chang Ning sighed and shook his head. Now was not the time to argue with him about these details. If the crazy ghosts really arrived tonight, then every minute must be seized. He then asked Xiao Bao, how do you know they can reach Yancheng tonight? After I told you about the situation that day, I went back to the south and searched for the Lost Heart Ghost team along the way from Yancheng to Zhenhe City. I searched for 2 days, but couldn't find them. As a result, I went back and found traces of Lost Heart Ghosts near a building ruin not far south of Yancheng. Then I ventured into the ruins and saw a large number of Lost Heart Ghosts hiding in the dark basement under the ruins. I couldn't see the exact number, but it was definitely a large army of Lost Heart Ghosts. It was definitely not a reconnaissance team of a dozen or so. I was shocked and hurried to find you. Chang Ning nodded. No matter what the reason was, it seemed that the army of Lost Heart Ghosts had indeed reached the vicinity of Yancheng. He asked again, how far is that ruin from Yancheng? If the Lost Heart Ghost starts to move after nightfall, how long will it take to reach the main building of Yancheng? At their speed, I think it will take about 4 or 5 hours. The earliest will be around midnight, and it will be around 2 or 3 in the morning if it's later. Chang Ning looked down at his watch. It was 6:30 in the afternoon, and there was less than an hour before it was completely dark and the Lost Heart Ghosts started to move. Adding the Lost Heart Ghosts 4 or 5 hours of travel, that means there are only about 5 or 6 hours to set up defense. With such a short time, it would definitely be too late to call back the people who went to Qiantang City and Jinling City, and they could only use the existing personnel for defense. Originally, Chang Ning and Yang Bao had agreed that after she came back from the direction of Jinling City, they would go to the tunnel in the south of Yancheng to find explosives to supplement the defense, but now it would definitely be too late. It's a dead end. Chang Ning frowned and thought for a moment, then told Xiao Bao, well, run upstream along the river as fast as you can to see if you can intercept the fleet heading to Jinling City and tell them the situation here. The fleet includes 2 Grandmaster level Awakeners, Yan Qian and Yang Bao, who are more powerful than the team heading to Qiantang City. In this emergency, Chang Ning chose the fleet if he had to choose between the two. Although they certainly won't be able to catch up with the first wave of battles with the lost heart ghosts, if Yancheng resists long enough and forms a protracted war, Chang Ning believes that the awakeners in the fleet can still arrive to complete the encirclement. Xiao Bao nodded, turned around and flew away. Chang Ning ran to the downstairs of the awakened dormitory again. He didn't know anyone here, so he had to shout, "Are there any awakened people from the hurricane system?" A little girl stuck her head out from the upstairs, raised her hand and said, I am. Chang Ning was delighted, looked up and shouted, "I need to trouble you to do something." The little girl jumped down from the third floor lightly, stood in front of Chang Ning, and said generously, "Tell me, do you know Yaosan?" Chang Ning asked. "Yes, I've been there. The awakened people of the hurricane system basically have experience as messengers. And Yaosan is one of the most important strongholds around Yancheng. It's not surprising that the little girl knows Yaosan." Chang Ning was overjoyed. "You go to Yaosan, find Maison Yang, and tell him that the army of lost ghosts will arrive in Yancheng tonight. Let him organize everyone in Yaosan, including awakened people and ordinary people, to rush to Yancheng together. No one needs to be left in Yaosan. Do you understand?" The little girl nodded, knowing the urgency of the matter, and ran towards Yaosan without saying a word. Chang Ning called the other awakened people who were still in the dormitory, and they all rushed back to Yancheng. Xingfu community was only 10 minutes away from Yancheng. When it was still light, everyone had already arrived at the main building of Yancheng. At this time, the people of Yancheng were still unaware of the impending arrival of the lost heart ghost. Most people were talking and laughing as they walked to the restaurant on the 17th floor. It was dinner time. Chang Ning trotted all the way to the decision-making committee on the 21st floor. Yang Qian Qian and Yang Bao were in the fleet heading to Jinling City. Zhu Tai and Lin Yu Qian were in the team heading to Qiantang City. And now only Yan Qiansu was here. Arrange people to organize defense immediately. The lost heart ghost will arrive tonight. Chang Ning shouted as soon as he entered the door. "What?" Yan Qiansu, who had a leisurely face, was shocked and jumped up directly. The latest news brought back by Xiao Bao. "Hurry," Chang Ning added. Yan Qiansu nodded and hurried out. In the previous few days, their decision-making committee had discussed the general defense arrangements and divided the existing personnel into several groups, asking them to practice according to the requirements. Although the requirements have not been fully met, some basic defense formations can still be organized. After a while, the 17th floor was in chaos, and it seemed that everyone went to find their own posts. Chang Ning walked to the corridor on the 21st floor and saw that several rows of people had begun to line up on the large balcony on the 17th floor. Some were holding steel knives and spears, some were holding shotguns, and all kinds of weapons. They will be dispersed to the 4 large balconies around the 17th floor as the first line of defense. There are other lines of defense in the halls, corridors, and rooms on each floor. Everything looks in good order. But Chang Ning still frowned, because he knew that nearly half of the 150 combat awakeners were missing, and this loss could not be made up. The defensive tactics arranged before can be said to be completely ineffective. The army of lost ghosts will arrive in a few hours. What should be done? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123 Attack. In the blink of an eye, it was completely dark. The whole Yancheng was filled with a depressing atmosphere. Although everyone knew a long time ago that a huge wave of mindless ghosts would attack, when it really happened, everyone was still filled with fear. The sense of security and upward atmosphere brought by the increase in the number of people in the past few days was swept away. Everyone was silent and stood at their posts with weapons in hand. Facing the mindless ghosts, most of these ordinary people can only play a supporting role. It may take dozens of fully armed humans with shotguns to threaten a mindless ghost. But there is no way. The main awakened people who fight against the mindless ghosts are few in number, and now nearly half of them are not in Yancheng. All high-end combat forces are outside, and even ordinary people have to go to the battlefield to make their own contributions to resisting the invasion of mindless ghosts. Chang Ning walked around the defense lines between the 17th and 21st floors to check the layout of the defense lines. To be honest, the execution ability of these ordinary soldiers is still relatively strong. They did not run away because they had to fight against the mindless ghosts, nor did they refuse to cooperate because of the previous conflicts between cities and towns. Although morale was low and the mood was low, they all stood in their own defensive positions, ready to fight. But the more he turned and looked, the more worried Chang Ning was. The buildings in Yancheng were too big, with a side length of nearly 1,000 meters, so each section of the defense line was not so stable. The remaining 70 or 80 combat awakeners could only be divided into groups of less than 20 people, patrolling in 4 directions of Yancheng in turn. There were also dozens of non-combat awakeners, who were also divided into groups of more than 10 people. On the 4 large balconies, each group guarded a psychic cannon. When the attack direction of the Lost Heart Ghost was uncertain, only one psychic cannon could be placed in each direction. These non-combat awakeners were also arranged to ensure that each psychic cannon could fire continuously before it broke down. In the ordinary people's team, the most elite was a hot weapons team, which consisted of 100 shotgunners. Together with the limited number of automatic rifles in the large warehouse of Yancheng, they could also give the Lost Heart Ghost a drink of pot when they were not prepared. It was a pity that the explosives were not brought, and Chang Ning sighed in his heart. If explosives were ambushed on the roads around Yancheng and detonated when the Lost Heart Ghosts passed by, they would be severely damaged and have a good start. But for now, it seems that this is the only way. Chang Ning also wanted to continue to strengthen the defense line, but he was really powerless. Time passed little by little. At about 10 o'clock, the large army of Yaosan came back, but the reinforcements were limited, and the defense line still felt leaky. In silence, midnight arrived. A figure appeared in the field of view of Chang Ning's infrared telescope, running quickly from the south. It was Xiao Bao. Everyone get ready, at most half an hour. Xiao Bao shouted from a distance, before he even reached the bottom of Yancheng. Everyone was startled, and each of them tightened their weapons. Xiao Bao shouted and ran, and soon arrived at the main building of Yancheng. He didn't use the elevator, and stepped directly on the vertical wall to the 17th floor. Are they leaving? Chang Ning ran to where Xiao Bao came up and asked. We've set off. Not only have we set off, but we are almost there. Judging from the direction, they're heading straight this way. Xiao Bao replied. The last glimmer of hope was shattered. It looked like a bloody battle was destined to take place tonight. Chang Ning sorted out his equipment, an invulnerable black and gold suit, a Skywalker eye laser sword, a Desert Eagle that could effectively kill the Lost Heart Ghost at medium and short distances, and a long-range sniper weapon, the Barrett. After the battle begins, there probably won't be much time to command or coordinate, and Chang Ning himself needs to join in as a combat force. The early autumn night was very hot and humid, and there were many mosquitoes on the balcony on the 17th floor. But no one had the heart to drive them away. They just endured it silently, their eyes fixed on the direction they were going to defend. More than 20 minutes later, a group of moving figures appeared again in the field of view of Chang Ning's infrared telescope. It was so dense that no one knew how many there were. This group of figures swooped down from the south and stopped about 1 kilometer away from Yancheng. Here they come. Chang Ning took out the intercom. Attention, all units. Lost Heart Ghosts appeared in the south. This intercom was found in the large warehouse on the 4th floor of Yancheng. There are probably thousands of them. In such a large-scale battle, it is very convenient for all parties to communicate. Received. 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 The guards on the other 4 balconies responded one after another. Do you need me to take people to the south? A steady female voice came from the intercom. This was Zulan, the liaison officer responsible for the defense of the northern balcony. She was an awakener from Fudan town near Yancheng. Chang Ning met her when he first came to Yancheng to deliver taxes. No. Chang Ning replied, now they have stopped. Let's determine the direction of their attack first. To be honest, Chang Ning was afraid that the Lost Heart Ghosts would disperse in 4 directions and attack separately. The current situation clearly shows that the Lost Heart Ghosts have a huge advantage in power and crush Yanqing in terms of combat power. If they attack separately, Yanqing will easily lose sight of one thing and be quickly defeated in the chaos. Fortunately, when Chang Ning continued to observe with a telescope, he found that, after staying in the dense forest 1 kilometer away for 10 minutes, they did not disperse and began to run fast again, turned left and circled Yanqing for half a circle, and moved to the west. Chang Ning hurriedly moved from the south balcony to the west balcony, leaving the defense of the south to Ko Jinglang. "Did you see them?" Chang Ning asked, as soon as he reached the west balcony, after passing through the corridor on the 17th floor of Yanqing. There, on the west balcony, Yan Xiansu stood behind the psychic cannon and pointed to the front. Chang Ning looked up and saw that the large army of Lost Heart Ghosts had walked out of the dense forest and was only 600 or 700 meters away from Yanqing. Judging from the dense number, Chang Ning estimated that there should be less than 1,000, about 700 to 900. It also far exceeded the existing awakened people in Yanqing. The Lost Heart Ghost at the head was a tall guy about 2.5 meters tall. Its skin seemed to have undergone some kind of mutation, and many sharp bone spurs grew on its clavicle, shoulder blade, tibia, humerus and other parts, which looked very scary. It just waved to the Lost Heart Ghosts behind it, and the whole team began to move slowly towards Yanqing. "It looks like they are going to attack this side." Chang Ning quickly took out the walkie-talkie. "Attention in all directions. The Lost Heart Ghost army appeared in the west. Please ask the awakened people from the other 3 parties to leave mobile team member and quickly move to the west balcony." "Received. Received. Received." The others responded quickly. Chang Ning put down the walkie-talkie, took off the beret on his back, and set up a sniper position on the wall beside the balcony. Yan Xiansu also stood behind the psychic cannon and began to charge the psychic cannon. Their target was the tall Lost Heart Ghost at the front of the Lost Heart Ghost team. Because they knew that the Lost Heart Ghost, a creature that always acts alone, suddenly gathered hundreds of them to attack Yanqing together, which must have a lot to do with this Lost Heart Ghost leader. If they could kill this guy, maybe the other crazy ghosts would just scatter and leave. But they were not sure whether they could kill it or not. The strength of this crazy ghost must have reached the master level or above, and it was hard to say whether it was extraordinary. If it was just an ordinary master level crazy ghost, and it was not good at defense, then the psychic cannon and beret should be able to break its defense. But if it was a higher level crazy ghost, the attacks of the 2 people should have basically no effect. But it was already at this time, so they must try to attack. A few seconds later, the psychic cannon emitted a brilliant white light, and a beam of light rushed out of the muzzle and went straight to the leading crazy ghost. The crazy ghost looked up at the same time Yan Xiansu pulled the trigger and saw the beam of light flying. It raised its arm, opened its palm, and greeted it. As if there was an invisible barrier on the edge of its palm, the beam of light shot by the psychic cannon actually stopped in front of its palm and just stayed in the air. The scene was extremely weird. What kind of ability is this? In the beret scope, Chang Ning could clearly see the face of this tall mad ghost. It did not have the pale skin of other mad ghosts, but its epidermis was a metallic black. It also had a few deep wrinkles on its hairless face. It was grinning, as if it was laughing. Damn. Chang Ning saw the arrogant look of this mad ghost and slowly moved the crosses and aimed at its head. The crosses of this beret had been calibrated by Chang Ning, and it could also automatically calculate the wind speed and angle deviation. So even if it was hundreds of meters away, Chang Ning only needed to aim directly at the crosses in a foolproof manner to aim at the target. Bang! With a muffled sound, Chang Ning's beret also opened fire. The laser bullet flew straight to the face of the mad ghost. At the moment Chang Ning opened fire, the mad ghost seemed to sense something, raised his hand and waved it, shooting back the beam of light shot from the Yan Xiansu psychic cannon. Then he retracted his arm to protect his face. Bang! Sparks flew everywhere. The bone spur on the humerus of this Lost Heart Ghost actually blocked Beret's bullet. But Chang Ning could see in the scope that a small piece of that bone spur had broken off and collapsed to the ground. Boom. The beam of light shot back by the Lost Heart Ghost hit the wall of the balcony on the 17th floor. The wall directly cracked, a large crack 3 or 4 meters wide. Several ordinary people who were preparing for battle on the edge of the balcony fell down with the vibration. Several screams came, and it was obvious that they would not survive. This lost heart ghost is obviously invulnerable to swords and guns. In the scope, the lost heart ghost leader seemed to be very angry about Chang Ning's shot, staring straight in the direction of Chang Ning. Then he waved his hand back again and accelerated his pace. Boom. Nearly 1,000 lost heart ghosts began to charge, and they were very imposing. Seeing this speed, they would reach the bottom of Yunqing building in less than a minute. Are you here? There was a noisy voice at the entrance of the balcony. Ko Jinglong, Zulan and others arrived with the awakened people from the other 3 directions. Here they come. Everyone prepare for battle. Chang Ning shouted, and continued to aim at the army of crazy ghosts below through the scope. Boom. A black shadow suddenly fell from above them, accompanied by a loud bang, and hit the ground directly. What fell? Chang Ning temporarily moved his eyes away from the scope, and when he looked down, he saw a familiar shadow standing up from the ground and running towards the direction of the army of crazy ghosts. Chapter 124. The Heartless Ghost vs. The Heartless Ghost. It's Li Ling. Chang Ning's eyes widened. He had counted the combat power and rehearsed the process of this battle many times before, but he had never thought that Li Ling could join the battle. Li Ling has lived in Yunqing for at least 100 years. Li Ling had killed several Grandmaster level awakeners in Yunqing, but he had never hurt ordinary people in Yunqing. Li Ling has been wandering around here, but the residents of Yunqing are just afraid of it, but not too hostile. Countless information about Li Ling that he had heard before flashed through Chang Ning's mind. It seems that Li Ling seems to have some connection with Yunqing. At the critical moment, Li Ling will come out to protect Yunqing. This idea sounds ridiculous, but apart from that, there is nothing to explain why Li Ling came out now. Li Ling stood up the moment he landed and rushed towards the army of lost heart ghosts on the opposite side. Although there were nearly 1,000 lost heart ghosts on the opposite side, they were aggressive, but with Li Ling's charge, the team of thousands of lost heart ghosts suddenly slowed down. Both sides were moving very fast. Almost in the blink of an eye, Li Ling stopped opposite the army of lost heart ghosts. The lost heart ghost leader also raised his hand to stop his subordinates from moving forward, and the 2 sides faced each other. Roar. Li Ling opened his mouth and let out a deafening roar. Chang Ning and his friend standing on the balcony on the 17th floor of Yunqing could hear it clearly. It was warning the other side. AWW. The lost heart ghost leader on the opposite side was not to be outdone, and also let out a deafening roar. The 2 lost heart ghosts stood face to face, neither giving in. Li Ling was nearly 3 meters tall, a bit taller than the lost heart ghost leader on the opposite side. But the lost heart ghost leader on the opposite side was sturdy and had countless bone spurs on his body. From the perspective of momentum, the 2 lost heart ghosts were evenly matched. But there was a large group of lost heart ghosts on the opposite side, hundreds of them, and there was only one Li Ling. Chang Ning was not only a little worried about Li Ling. He squatted down to the sniper position again, his eyes on the scope, looking for opportunities near the lost heart ghost leader. The leader of the lost heart ghosts seemed to have a telepathic connection. While confronting Li Ling, he also glanced at Chang Ning's position out of the corner of his eye. It doesn't look good. It probably still can't break its defense. Chang Ning was stared at by the leader of the lost heart ghosts and felt a chill all over his body. In this case, he simply aimed the scope at the large group of lost heart ghosts behind the leader of the lost heart ghosts. Bang! The Barrett gun fired, and a short lost heart ghost about 1.23 meters tall behind the group of lost heart ghosts fell down. Its skull was completely shattered, and it was obvious that it would not survive. Don't just stand there. Shoot the ordinary lost heart ghosts behind. After Chang Ning fired a shot, he turned back to remind Yun Xianzu and the others. Yun Xianzu nodded. At this time, the psychic cannons on the other 3 balconies had also been moved over. She stood with several other non-combat awakeners, and the 4 psychic cannons were charged at the same time. They bypassed the leader of the lost heart ghosts and aimed at the back of the group of lost heart ghosts. AWW. The leader of the lost heart ghosts seemed to be very angry and roared towards the balcony on the 17th floor of Yunqing. Several gunners who were operating the psychic cannons suddenly lost their minds, but the white light had already shot out. 3 of the 4 shots missed, and 1 shot hit the group of lost heart ghosts, and 3 or 4 lost heart ghosts were blown to pieces. Just as the lost heart ghost leader was roaring at the 17th floor, Li-Ling opposite him moved. Li-Ling did not use any abilities, but directly pounced on him, grabbed the bone spur on the shoulder blade of the lost heart ghost leader with both hands, and threw him out 40 or 50 meters with a wind and fire wheel, smashing him into the group of lost heart ghosts, knocking the lost heart ghosts along the way to the ground. AWW. The lost heart ghost leader climbed up, and it didn't seem to have suffered any major injuries, but he was even more angry. He waved to the group of lost heart ghosts behind him, and those lost heart ghosts who were standing there immediately bypassed Li-Ling's position and rushed directly to Yancheng. The lost heart ghost leader rushed towards Li-Ling with anger. For a moment, the war had already begun. Chang Ning, Yancheng and all the awakened people from Yancheng took their positions according to the plan beforehand and entered the combat state. While the army of the lost heart ghosts was still running and approaching, the long-range weapons on the Yancheng side had already opened fire. Chang Ning's Beret harvested the lives of the lost heart ghosts at a rate of almost 1 shot every 3 seconds. With each muffled gunshot, a lost heart ghost would fall. Yancheng led 4 psychic cannons and fired continuously at the army of lost heart ghosts. The lost heart ghosts ran in a very dense formation, so each shot could harvest 4 or 5 lost heart ghosts. However, the interval between the firing of the psychic cannons was relatively long. The 4 psychic cannons only fired 2 or 3 shots, and the lost heart ghosts were already close to the downstairs. At this time, a few sparse gunshots were heard on the 17th floor. This was the sound of the automatic rifles in the warehouse on the 4th floor. Since there were few rifles, the gunshots now did not sound so lively. However, these rifles are also very lethal to ordinary lost heart ghosts. Even with such sparse gunshots, more than a dozen lost heart ghosts were shot by rifles and fell to the ground. You have to know that those who use rifles now are ordinary people who have no awakening ability. If the organized heavy firepower army before the doomsday is restored, the less than 1,000 lost heart ghosts in front of them may not be enough. After the lost heart ghost army rushed to the bottom of the Cloud City building, a small part stopped, and most of them continued to climb up along the outer wall of the building. They are flexible, like monkeys, and their speed of climbing the wall is quite fast. And a group of Cloud City residents have been waiting for them on the 17th floor of the wall. Almost every 10 meters, there is a combat awakener. They are either mountain moving, wind-like, or other physically strong awakeners, each holding a weapon and waiting for the arrival of the lost heart ghosts. In the gaps between the awakeners, there are also many ordinary warriors. Those with long-range weapons, such as bows and arrows, rifles, shoot down. Those who didn't have long-range weapons picked up the stones and hot oil that they had prepared long ago and threw them down from the top of the wall. From time to time, the insane ghosts were hit by long-range weapons or stones and hot oil and rolled down the wall. The group of insane ghosts who stayed on the ground and didn't climb up, after a short formation, raised their heads and roared together. The roar was deafening, and there were some means that seemed to be mental attacks. After the sound waves reached the top of the wall, many defending humans couldn't stand steadily, staggered, and fell directly off the top of the wall. Some awakened people recovered in midair and climbed back up by various means. Most of them were ordinary people who had almost no chance of survival after falling down. The long-range attacks of the insane ghosts caused some losses to the humans on the top of the city, but more defenders rushed up to fill the gap. In the distance, the battle between Li-Ling and the leader of the insane ghosts also entered a white-hot stage. The fight between the 2 crazy ghosts was earth-shattering, with each punch hitting the flesh. Although they were several hundred meters apart and there were constant gunshots and cannon fire in Chang Ning's ears, he could still hear the sounds of their fight. Many of the bone spurs on the humerus of the crazy ghost leader had been torn off by Li-Ling, and he looked very embarrassed. Li-Ling was not much better off. A large cut was made on his leg, and dark blood slowly seeped out of the cut. Affected by the leg wound, Li-Ling's flexibility was now reduced. Ouch. The crazy ghost leader screamed and pounced on Li-Ling again. Li-Ling jumped to the right, trying to avoid the attack, but staggered because of the leg injury. The crazy ghost leader was relentless, and changed direction in midair to pounce on Li-Ling's injured left leg, trying to expand the wound again and make Li Ling unable to move. When he jumped to the highest point, he suddenly seemed to be fixed, suspended in midair, and the movements of his limbs were also frozen. Li Ling stood up from the ground slowly, waved his hands upward, and the leader of the Lost Heart Ghost flew directly to a height of 30 or 40 meters. Li Ling then waved his hands downward again, and the leader of the Lost Heart Ghost fell rapidly downward again. Bang! A deep pit was smashed into the ground. After a while, the leader of the Lost Heart Ghost climbed out of the pit. Most of the bone spurs on its left shoulder blade were broken, and it looked even more embarrassed. AWW. The leader of the Lost Heart Ghost seemed to be extremely angry. Its whole body shook, and with the rapid shaking, its body slowly grew larger, becoming a few points thicker than before. The metallic luster of the skin on the surface, which was originally a little black, has now turned pure black. Wow. It can also explode. Chang Ning glanced at the place where Li Ling and the leader of the Lost Heart Ghost fought from a distance, and complained in his heart. After the leader of the Lost Heart Ghost exploded, it looked much more powerful. It jumped up again and pounced on Li Ling. Li Ling made the same action that he had just controlled it, trying to continue to freeze it. But the leader of the Lost Heart Ghost in midair was not affected at all, and still rushed towards Li Ling with great momentum, aiming the bone spur on his arm at Li Ling's head. Although Li Ling's leg was injured, he still rolled on the ground flexibly and narrowly avoided the attack on his face, but his left arm was cut again, and the dark blood oozed out again. Not good. Chang Ning stared at the direction where the two bosses were fighting in the distance. He knew that the current stalemate in Yancheng was completely maintained by Li Ling. If it weren't for Li Ling holding back the leader of the Lost Heart Ghost, the humans in Yancheng would probably have collapsed long ago. Without the help of the leader of the Lost Heart Ghost, the people of Yancheng relied on the terrain advantage and many days of preparation to fight back and forth with hundreds of Lost Heart Ghosts for the time being. If the leader of the Lost Heart Ghost once got rid of Li Ling's entanglement and participated in the battle here, the situation would instantly be a foregone conclusion. Li Ling can't be defeated. Chang Ning clenched the beret in his hand and frowned in thought. The beret could not penetrate the defense of the insane ghost leader, but if it hits its weak point, such as the eyes, it should be able to hurt it, right? So, now concentrate on aiming at the insane ghost leader, find a suitable opportunity, and help Li Ling win the battle. He put his eyes on the scope, ignoring the noise around him, and focused on the direction of the battle between the two insane ghosts in the distance. Chang Ning, do you want to use this? Zun Lu's voice suddenly came from behind him. Chang Ning looked back, and his mouth opened wide. Chapter 125 Shotgun Power. What is this? Chang Ning couldn't help asking. This is the laser crossbow I invented. You can also call it a laser slingshot. Zun Lu said seriously. Laser slingshot? Chang Ning looked over carefully. This is a weapon similar to a powerful crossbow, with a smooth appearance, beautiful lines, and very handsome. However, the position of the crossbow arrow slot is very different from that of an ordinary crossbow. There is a long slot about 15 centimeters wide, and no crossbow arrow is so thick. Now on top of this long slot is a laser saw that Chang Ning had seen in the 4-story warehouse. This laser saw has also been modified, and a piece of wood with a strange shape has been added below, which looks like it is used to stabilize the flight trajectory. Can this be used? Chang Ning couldn't help but have some doubts. They are now 600 or 700 meters away from the battlefield of the two crazy ghosts. Using a Barrett sniper is no pressure, but it is difficult to hit accurately with an ordinary assault rifle, not to mention a crossbow. Zun Lu said calmly, just try it, and you will know. Chang Ning thought about it, and it was right. Anyway, it doesn't cost money, so just give it a try. So he said to Zun Lu, are you coming? Aim at the leader of the Lost Heart Ghosts. It would be best if you can injure it and help Li Ling win the battle. Zun Lu nodded and slowly placed the crossbow on the wall. With a rumble, when the crossbow was put down, a lot of dust was splashed. It looked quite heavy. There was also a scope on the crossbow. I don't know where Zun Lu found it. He looked at the scope for a while and then nodded. He moved his eyes away from the scope, then pressed a button in the crossbow arrow slot, and turned on the switch of the laser saw. The two ends of the laser saw suddenly lit up, and a laser was connected in the middle. Zun Lu stared at the scope again, and turned his eyes to the direction where the two Lost Heart Ghosts were fighting. The battle between the two bosses over there seemed to be much easing, and the movements were not so fast, and ordinary people could see clearly. But it was also much more dangerous. The reason why the movement slowed down was that Liling's flexibility was affected, and now it was trying its best to suppress the opponent's movement with its own ability. In this case, each attack of the two lost heart ghosts was charged for a long time, with great force and power. Once they were hit, they would suffer great damage. However, this also created conditions for Zunlu to aim. Zunlu put his eyes on the sight again, and soon pressed the trigger. Whoosh! The sound was not loud, but the laser saw on the crossbow arrow slot shot out very fast. Almost in the blink of an eye, the laser saw flew to the side of the two lost heart ghosts. This laser saw was small in size and light in weight. The lost heart ghost leader hardly took it seriously, thinking it was wood chips and stones splashed from the battlefield in the distance. With the help of the fluid wood chips, the saw flew accurately towards its head, and was about to hit its head in the blink of an eye. The lost heart ghost leader reached out and pushed the saw, trying to push it away. AWW. But it let out another earth-shattering roar. Chang Ning saw clearly in the sight that when the lost heart ghost leader moved the saw, his finger touched the laser of the saw blade. Then the four fingers on the upper part of its entire palm were cut off silently, and a stream of black blood spurted out. The flight of the saw was not affected at all. The leader of the lost heart ghost used his arm to block it in panic, but a whole layer of his forearm from the wrist to the elbow was cut off, and a piece of meat separated from the arm and fell to the ground. The saw was still powerful and collided with its upper arm again, cutting a big hole again before falling to the ground. The leader of the lost heart ghost was seriously injured instantly. It looked angrily in the direction of the balcony on the 17th floor of Yunsheng, and its expression was almost distorted. But then there was a muffled puff, and its expression really distorted. Liling took advantage of its injury and loss of mind to approach it quickly, and hit it hard. Boom. The huge body of the lost heart ghost leader flew out, and hit the ground heavily. Well done. Chang Ning turned to Zunlu and said. Zunlu raised his mouth and said, "It's nothing." Seeing the battle between Liling and the leader of the lost heart ghosts in the distance, with Liling having a great advantage, Chang Ning turned his attention back to the battlefield. Several lost heart ghosts climbing up have already climbed to the top of the 17th floor wall and are fighting fiercely with the awakened, who are responsible for the defense of the corresponding area. From the scene, the lost heart ghosts on the wall are at a disadvantage. Often 3 or 4 awakened will surround a lost heart ghost and fight him. From time to time, a lost heart ghost will be beaten and fly out of the 17th floor. However, the lost heart ghosts climbing up the wall have brought great chaos to the defense of the wall. Coupled with the interference of a group of lost heart ghosts with mental attacks downstairs, the positions for shooting, throwing stones and hot oil at the bottom are basically gone. More and more lost heart ghosts are climbing up. At this rate, the number of lost heart ghosts will soon exceed that of the awakened. Roar. At this moment, a 2-meter tall lost heart ghost climbed up the wall. This should be a small leader of lost heart ghosts. When the other lost heart ghosts saw it coming up, their morale was boosted, and their attack speed became faster. As soon as the small leader of lost heart ghosts climbed up the wall, he went straight to the battlefield next to him. Here, Zulan was leading 3 awakened people to deal with 1 lost heart ghost at a time. Among the 4 people, there was a mountain moving system, a wind system, a fighter, and a wind whisperer. The system was complete and the cooperation was tacit. A few dozen meters behind, the old mayor of Yao town, Zhen Yang, was also patrolling back and forth with 3 pharmacist awakened people, adding status and healing wounds to the awakened people fighting by the wall. It seemed that the human side's defense was very solid. But after this small leader came up, he jumped to the battlefield on Zulan's side, waved his hand, and threw the fighter in the team under the wall, and waved his arm to block the full strength attack of the mountain moving awakened person, without retreating at all. Zulan of the Gale department took a sharp blade, jumped up and drew a beautiful half circle in the air, bypassed its front, and stabbed it in the back, but it was also dodged flexibly. The besieged lost heart ghost got a breath and recovered immediately. Behind it, other lost heart ghosts continued to climb up the wall. This actually opened a small gap. If this gap is not filled, the lost heart ghost will climb up faster and faster. Supanpan. Chang Ning saw this and shouted at the balcony leading to the building. "Here we come." Chang Ning's exclusive little maid Su Panpan led dozens of people out of the gate. Since Zunlu led the blacksmiths to forge many shotguns, many ordinary people in Yunqing have practiced shooting. What Chang Ning didn't expect was that his little maid Su Panpan was actually the best shooter among them. A shotgun can allow her to hit the target 100 times at a distance of 50 meters, and the quality of loading and maintenance is also first class. So Su Panpan was promoted to the captain of the Yunqing shotgun squad a few days ago. This team had been waiting for orders in the corridor inside the balcony, waiting for this moment. Hearing Chang Ning's shout, Su Panpan quickly led dozens of shotgun team members from the corridor to the large balcony, and then stood in a row. "Everyone lie down," Su Panpan shouted. Hearing this voice, the awakened people and ordinary people fighting near the wall were all startled, and they didn't care about the crazy ghosts on the opposite side, and quickly lay on the ground. Several crazy ghosts who were fighting fiercely saw their human on the opposite side lying down, and they were all stunned. Then they heard the sound of thunder and crackling. The shotgun is an old-fashioned shotgun. After firing a shot, the shell needs to be ejected from the chamber and loaded again. But even so, the speed of shooting is only once every few seconds. Dozens of guns fired together, and there is almost no gap. Amid the dense gunfire, countless blooming shrapnel hit the crazy ghosts on the wall, punching countless blood holes in their bodies, and streams of black blood spurted out, making the entire balcony smelly and unpleasant. The one who received the most attention was, of course, the little leader of the Lost Heart ghost who had just climbed up. It was covered in black blood, like a fountain. It looked in the direction of Su Panpan's gun team in disbelief, blinked, and then leaned back weakly, falling off the 17th floor balcony. It had only been a dozen seconds since the shotgun team joined the battle, but the Lost Heart ghosts on the entire wall were gone, and everyone gasped and looked in the direction of Su Panpan and his team. They knew that shotguns were powerful before, but they didn't expect that a group of ordinary people who were not even awakened could use them so powerfully. It was much more efficient than the awakened people on the top of the city to deal with the enemy. Su Panpan was stared at by everyone, feeling a little embarrassed. She stuck out her tongue at Chang Ning, turned around and led the shotgun team back to the corridor. The arrangement for the shotgun team before the war was that once a large number of Lost Heart ghosts appeared on the top of the city and the defense line had a tendency to tear, the shotgun team would come out to sweep. The trajectory of the shotgun is very unstable. If an awakened person is fighting with a heartless ghost at close range, it is easy to hurt their own people. So once the wave of sweeps are under control, the shotgun team will withdraw and leave the home court to the awakened people. The shotgun team members are all ordinary people. They can only exist as a force to clear the field, and cannot be the main players, to always stand in the front. Chang Ning was also very satisfied with the performance of the shotgun. He smiled at Su Panpan's departing back, and then scanned the current battlefield. Now the battle has just started for less than half an hour. The human side has lost more than a dozen awakened people and hundreds of ordinary soldiers. Most of them were directly thrown off the wall by the heartless ghosts during the fight, and there is little hope of survival. But the heartless ghosts also suffered heavy losses. There are more than a dozen heartless ghost corpses left on the balcony, and more heartless ghosts fell down after being killed. Roughly estimated, 40 or 50 heartless ghosts were eliminated. Although the results of the battle are not bad, only less than 1/10 of the heartless ghosts were eliminated, and the main force of the heartless ghosts still exists. Moreover, the battle between Li Ling and the leader of the Lost Heart ghost in the distance has not yet ended. Once Li Ling gives up fighting against the leader of the Lost Heart ghost, the situation will take a sharp turn for the worse. We still have to think of a way to eliminate as many of the opponent's living forces as possible. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.